Okay, since it's 6:30 on November 7th, I'm going to start the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. We're going to adjust the agenda. We're going to start off with a request from the Planning Board commenting on 1180 American Legion Highway site plan approval. Consider whether the applicant, Macaday LLC, requires a new application for a special permit from the zoning board because the changes made to original plans. A letter from attorney Mackenzie Long has been submitted. This was we had a hearing a month or so ago for an aquifer protection special permit, and then it went to the site plan. It went to the planning board for site plan approval, and changes were made. So, can the applicant come up and discuss whether or not this is a significant a change that requires coming back to the zoning board?
Good evening to the board. Nice to see you all again. Not so short. Not as much time has passed as we would have expected, but as the chair mentioned, we did do a slight change of the plan, and that prompted my letter to the board. Would you like me to read the letter into the record? Have you done that?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Okay. To whom it may concern, I am writing this letter in response to correspondence received from the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding a change in the plan that was approved by the ZBA on September 25th, 2024, for a special permit to construct 3 additional storage buildings on the premises known as 1180 American Legion Highway. After the ZBA's approval of the special permit, the engineers prepared a final plan set, which included a comprehensive drainage plan to be submitted to the Westport Planning Board for site plan approval. The plan that was submitted to the Planning Board is a slight deviation from that of the plan that was approved by the ZBA on September 25th. The change between the two plans includes the removal of the second drainage pond in the northeast corner of the site. The engineers concluded after performing their calculations that there was no need for a second drainage pond, and so the decision was made to remove the second pond. It is the opinion of Sean Leach of Northeast Engineers and Consultants, Ed Pesci of Pesci Engineering and Associates, and myself that the removal of the second pond is a minor design change which provides for a net reduction in the disturbance on site and therefore should not require the applicant to reapply for a new special permit. This change was a result of the plan being finalized and reduces the overall disturbance from the project within the Aquifer Protection District. All other aspects of the plan remain unchanged. The plan presented to the ZBA on September 25th was an accurate representation of the applicant's intent. However, the drainage calculations were not fully completed prior to applying for the special permit. It was not until after the meeting that the discovery was made that the second pond would not be necessary and therefore should be removed to reduce the effect that the work required for this project would have on the aquifer, in furtherance of the ZBA's intent and review of the proposed plans. It is for these reasons set forth above that we respectfully request that the board find that this minor change in the proposed plan does not require a reapplication and reissuance of a new special permit. We thank you for your consideration.
Okay, I got 3 questions, and these are all yes/no answers.
Okay.
Makes
He's
it
an
easy.
attorney, he only
Heard
knows
that.
it
Yes,
depends.
yes, yes.
He's an attorney, he only knows if it
When we
depends.
had the meeting, the hearing for the aquifer protections, did we advise you to go to the site plan first?
Yes.
Okay. When we granted the aquifer protection permit, did we, as part of the decision, did we say any changes that the site plan required you to do would require you to come back to the zoning board of appeals?
Yes.
Yes. Did you, when you went to the site plan?
We haven't gone.
Did you have any effect on the aquifer?
We haven't
Yes.
gone to the planning board. We just submitted, but
Yes.
I get what you're saying.
Your plans, whether it's better or worse, affects the aquifer. Yes. In my opinion, whether this is, because it affects the aquifer, you have to come back to the zoning board of appeals to demonstrate that in fact your new plan does not have a negative effect on the aquifer. That's my opinion.
That's my opinion too.
Okay.
He
Are
shouldn't
you-
have been here beforehand. We
And we
counseled
told you
him.
beforehand, you
I
really should have
understand.
gone for the site plan first, but you thought it was cheaper to do it this way. Well, maybe it's not so cheap.
I mean, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and I respect that. I mean, I think my letter addresses the issue. As Sean pointed out when he was here before the board, any change would be a reduction in anything. I know that we discussed it.
Yes.
It wasn't crystal clear that if the plan changed,
Yep.
that was the
But-
case. My opinion stands, as does the engineers.
Oh, yeah.
And we have already received comments back from the third-party consultant for the planning board. They're in support of everything for the most part, minor
But
changes.
they don't do aquifer.
No,
You came to us specifically for aquifer protection.
and the effect that we would have on the aquifer.
Right. Now you have to come back and say the changes that you made do not have a negative, that, you know, do not have, all you have is a piece of paper, and as far as I'm concerned, that, in my opinion, again, I'm only one of the board, and by the way, the voting on this are gonna be, Jerry Coutinho, Ray Elias, myself, Constance Gee, and Cynthia Kozekowitz. So, in my opinion, you changed the aquifer, how you're gonna protect the aquifer, so we need to review that. That's my opinion.
You were all submitted the change in plan, correct, right? When the planning board asked for comment, you all received copies of the plan from
Of the new
the
plan?
new plan,
Okay.
right, the full size. And so yes, as long as, let me see, is it, yes, not showing the.
That was one of my
Exactly.
questions.
Yeah, and
So the main thing that we talked about, and again, and I referenced this in my letter, what we changed is a reduction in anything that we're doing, which is in further, because realistically, we could have left this pond there as it was approved by the board. And instead, we chose to remove the pond
big one.
for two reasons. One, to limit what we're doing within the aquifer in furtherance of the board's intent and process
And
here.
these are all good things that you can
But we
say when you come back to
Yeah.
us.
Because we haven't had a chance to understand if the one pond is sufficient.
Right, because we are responsible for aquifer protection. That is our zoning bylaw. The
If the
planning board is
use,
not.
if the use of
So-
the proposed use is detrimental, I know we went through this the last time we
All
were
I'm saying
here.
is, we approved the plan, you modified the plan. That effect, if you.
Minimally.
If you modified something that had no effect on the aquifer, we would probably say minor. This is an obvious effect, and whether it's better or worse, you're gonna have to come and prove to us,
Right.
in my
But
opinion.
But my thing with that is you guys don't have, like, we don't send out the third-party consultant to do drainage calculations and handle all of the hydraulic loads and all of the things that planning board does through site plan
That's why we
review.
wanted you to come second, not first, to begin with.
But the whole purpose of this, and we talked about this before, even, I believe this is town council here, when we discussed this, the purview of the board was, is the use that we're proposing within the Aquifer Protection District detrimental or not? And the plan that we proposed, whether we changed one pond, my opinion would be, if we added another pond, I think there is no question, I wouldn't even be standing here. I would have already reapplied and done
I
it.
will-
But instead, we've reduced the overall effect that we are going to have within the aquifer.
Well, I kind of look at it the other way. You eliminated a retention pond.
Yeah.
To me,
could
that has
actually
more of an
affect-
impact,
I mean,
not less.
As do
Or at
I.
least you got to prove that it's not more of an impact. than less.
Through all of the drainage calculations, I have a 200-page drainage report
And
that
that's
can
what you would
support
bring
that.
us. You would come to us like you did before and say, I'm going to prove to you that we are not having a negative impact on the aquifer with this modified plan.
Right.
Again, my opinion only.
I understand. I hear you.
I concur with the chair's opinion. We asked you that you were doing it backwards, and you felt you wanted to do it that way, and you could have actually asked for a continuance last time until you finished your plans. And the fact that you state it's the opinion of Sharon Leach and Edward Pesci means nothing to me without declaration, them stating that themselves. That's just hearsay to me.
From an attorney signed as an affidavit submitted?
Yeah, I
could be
mean-
held in contempt for that, but.
No, not you. I'm talking about, I
I
want
know,
a
but I
statement
would never quote another professional without first verifying with both of
I
them.
would doubt, I'm
I
an attorney as well.
I
so
understand that. I
I
think-
would not I can't accept what you say, what Sean Leach and Edward Pesci says as the
Well,
truth without
for,
them being.
for the
here.
record, I did have a phone call and a conversation with both of them in which we discussed this very matter. I felt like it wasn't relevant for both of them to come. Had I known that you would have preferred me to have them sign this, I would have put their signatures on here as well. I felt though, the board would take me at my word. I have no reason to, I guess you could say I have a reason to lie, but it's not how I do business.
But again, I think, as the chair had said, we counseled you that doing it, getting our approval before the planning board approval comes with certain risks, which means that the plans change throughout, and more changes may occur with the planning board, right? Because you haven't gotten full planning board.
We haven't
so
gotten site plan
I would
approval
wait until you have your absolute final plans from the planning board approval before you come back to us. That's just.
Well, if
My
the
opinion.
board votes right now to make us come back, then yes, that would absolutely be the decision that we make, is to come back after everything else for the last piece. Because now I do feel confident that the board is okay with what we're doing, whether or not the pond, 1 pond, 2 ponds, 3 ponds, we've kind of narrowed that down. I do respect what both of you are saying, and I hear that loud and clear. It is my opinion, and the opinion of Sean and Ed, that this is a less of an effect on the aquifer. If the board feels differently, then so be it, and we'll go with what is expected and what is expressed.
Any comments from?
Well, I don't think the board has determined whether we feel one way or the other. I think what we are looking for, from what I'm hearing, is just some verification directly from your engineer and so forth about this, and possibly the third party from the planning board to verify it. But I have a question here about, is this the current set of plans
That is what's been submitted to the
To the
planning
planning
board.
board, right?
Yep, we're being
Because-
heard on November 19th.
Okay,
And they may
because-
change.
Because they indicated, just as one item, about the plan should show the number of parking spaces on site, but this one does say proposed parking plan, and it does show them. So have they gotten this one and
Yes.
acted on it?
No, nothing has been acted on by the planning board. We are going before the board November 19th.
Okay.
What did you have, a pre-plan review from?
The
outside?
only action that we have done is come before this board. Aside from that, we applied to the planning board.
But the planning board had third-party review.
As per, the planning board, when you apply for site plan review, sends it out for third-party review,
And that came back.
and that came back.
And you
Came back quickly.
You have that documentation?
Not on me, but I can forward the email. The planning board does have that comment.
So what is the actual issue here? If you go back to them, because
Right now-
until you go back to them and get whatever they want, they might want more changes.
Agreed.
Whatever, and you just continue this to when you feel that you'll be able to get your materials from them approved, and then you come back with the real approved signed plan and so forth, and we just,
As we counseled them originally.
If we were to take that route and continue this, even just this pure discussion of requiring any further, reapplying for a special permit, if we go before the planning board, go before Conservation Commission, because those are the next 2 steps that we're in the process of.
Yes.
So once we do that, they sign off, we
Yeah.
come back with the finalized set.
Yes.
Whether it's this set or anything else.
right,
If I come back here and I bring Sean, I'll bring Ed, I'll bring everybody before the board.
Right.
Yes.
And we can discuss that it has a less of a reduction.
Yep.
That way they're here to make comments.
Yes,
right.
We don't have to necessarily, I know you're not gonna comment as to whether or not we're gonna have to do that or not. We may not necessarily have to reapply. We
no,
may,
you have to reapply.
Yeah.
well, that's what you're voting on right now.
That's what we're voting on. If it's a minor, then you wouldn't have to do that.
Well, so that's
If
what,
we consider this to be not a minor, then you're starting over again. Another application for a zoning protection permit.
understood. And what if we were to continue that vote until after the planning, just on the off chance that there are no, what if there are no more comments?
But there are already changes, in my opinion.
Your opinion, the change the loan that has happened already
Yeah.
is significant
Yes,
and requires.
because it affect the aquifer. And again, whether it's better or worse, you're gonna have to come and prove to us that it's better or worse.
Are we
But
arguing?
you changed it.
Yeah.
And since we are responsible for the aquifer, we need to prove to ourselves that what you did didn't affect what we already had approved.
Okay.
That's
And
my
I
thing.
respect that, and I understand that. I respect
Yeah,
that.
because, like I said, we're responsible for the aquifer, just, that's not the planning board's job. So they look at things a little differently when they, we're gonna rely upon, a lot of information from them, but but according to our zoning bylaws, it's the zoning board of appeals that's responsible for aquifer protection, solely. So, and again, in my opinion, whether you did a better job, whether you did a better job of protecting the aquifer or not, is up to you to prove.
Okay.
So we're really, what are we arguing over another $500 permit?
No, not at all. I was just
Right, I
more,
mean, in
more
reality, that's what we're
going
doing.
through going through the process.
But it's gonna be a lot faster if
Oh,
you
right.
wait and reapply, because you've
Oh,
gotta get.
yeah, I'm not gonna reapply until we're
Because
done.
if we continued, we'd have to set a date today, and you don't know if you're gonna be complete by the time we reconvene, and then you're here again, we're here again, and maybe only for you. And to me, it's cleaner, when you get everything, all your ducks in a row, then reapply, and we will do our best to get you as quickly as possible on the.
And hopefully
agenda.
that one will be quicker because we've already seen it
Yeah.
once.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the changes.
All right.
What
The only thing-
what are the standards for a minor change?
That's up to you guys to
That's up to
decide.
us.
But at this point, we can take the vote, but if there are more changes, then
No,
we're gonna
no,
get
but-
another, but here's my thing, if you take a vote right now,
Hmm?
and the majority vote is that it was a minor plan, and the special permit still stands, and then we go to planning board,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and then we go to conservation, and they make a change,
Yep,
we're gonna be right back here again.
yes.
Yep.
So,
Yes.
for sake of all of us and everything else, if the desire is to reapply for $500 or whatever the fee is,
Yeah.
then
The
so be it.
detriment to
My-
that is a little bit of a delay, because we have to then have another
Public
week of public.
Well, but at
notice.
least at that point, we're meeting in November 19th with the planning
Yeah.
board. We should have a really good idea of where things stand at that point.
How about
The
conservation?
next step is, as soon as we close with planning on the 19th, we'll be applying to Concom.
Okay,
So then, at that point, we will also, Concom will run concurrently. They've already heard the comments from the third-party consultant,
concurrently with what?
right after the planning board.
Okay.
And then after planning.
But not concurrently with planning board.
No, well, I'm saying concurrently with whatever comes on the November 19th.
As a result of
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
So what I'm getting at is, because then conservation's gonna have to do their
To comment
public
on it.
notice, and so
Yeah.
you're saying after.
My major concern, and the reason for coming before the board first, as I said to you guys before, was if we came, realistically, the pond was minor. It was the 3 buildings. We haven't changed the 3 buildings. We're not going to change the 3 buildings unless anybody forces us to do so. I now feel confident that the board was okay with 3 buildings. So I can move forward with planning and feel like I'm not going to get approved 3 buildings, all of the things that we've done, do all of this work, and then come to you guys and have you say,
That's correct.
no for 3 buildings. So
Right.
if at the end of the
That's
day, it requires one more meeting and we take, hopefully a lot less time than we did the last one, I will let the board know we've addressed all of the abutters' concerns. We've had meetings with them. Been great, all around, good. So if that's what it comes down to and that's what we need to do, so be it. I have no objection.
Okay. We'll take, this will be a majority vote of,
So tonight.
essentially,
I just
the
wanna
vote is going to be, do we require them to come back?
Okay,
with
would
a new
like to
permit.
just clarify, tonight, he's here, is not another $500.
That's
hearing
correct.
Tonight,
This is-
right, this
that's
is
correct.
just,
This is not a
Talking.
hearing, this is just, do you need to come back for a hearing?
okay.
That's all we're doing.
Yes.
So any other comment before we?
No.
No? So you know where I stand. I make a motion that the change requires a new permit.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
No, yeah.
So, again,
See
hopefully
you
this
soon.
next one's gonna be pretty quick, 'cause like you said,
No,
all
I
the other
agree.
aspects of this.
I agree. And my concerns were, as I mentioned, with the buildings and less about,
Right.
everything else. So happy to do so. We'll come back again with our final plan and
Yeah.
then once you
And
guys
it's not
give
like we're
us.
after another $500. It's-
No,
it's
no, I
really
don't
concerned
feel
about
that way
the aquifer.
whatsoever. I agree. And I know that's what you're here for, is to
Right.
protect the aquifer.
Okay,
So
thanks for
We have
coming.
to pay Maria.
Can I ask,
I'm happy.
so Roger, could you come for an informational meeting without filing for a special permit? Like if he instead of the last time where he came for a special permit, which was this backwards, could he have just come before the board to discuss the project in general? To get your satisfaction that you're not,
Yeah, I don't know.
I
I don't know
get
if they
that.
would have heard that.
Kenny?
It really depends on
I'm
the,
looking at the attorney now.
no,
Yeah. Well, he got here tonight without
no,
anything.
but because all he's doing is saying.
Tonight I'm here
Because
because
we
the planning
told them
board had
that there was no, if there was any
Yeah.
change to the plan, and what he's saying is the plan is insignificant, so he shouldn't have to come back to us.
Yeah.
So he's trying to modify a previous decision, or abide by it, sort of,
Yeah.
you know.
I just, I was just wondering if
So-
we could.
But if somebody comes in with a whole new project and saying, should we come to you? He said, no, you've,
Yeah, okay,
you know.
I don't have a problem with putting that as an agenda item, that type of
yeah.
discussion. It's not
Yeah, I mean, at this point. it's-
noticed, it was
Yeah.
noticed properly. It had-
It's just, again, just to kind of save.
Yeah,
us,
for next time.
Well, a couple shillings and some
Yeah.
time of
Right,
No,
going through the
like I said,
process
I
with
completely
Maria
understand,
had it.
no
go.
objection on my part, so.
okay,
We'll see you guys soon,
yes, yes.
hopefully sooner than later.
Probably after Christmas.
Hope not. Try to close this out before the end of the year. So.
I mean, but it's Maria's time.
Okay,
Doing the minutes and doing the decision and doing everything, and if he could just
I
come
know.
and say, hey, let's have an open.
the second hearing is a continuation of Westport Lakes Road. Continued hearing on application of Pine Ridge Estates LLC and Bradford Dean for a comprehensive permit pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40B, for a development off Westport Lakes Drive consisting of 38 single-family homes on individual lots. I guess it's up to 38 lots, anyway, which are to contain 2 or 3 bedrooms, 10 of which of those homes being designated as affordable deed-restricted homes. Subject property is located at 0 Westport Lakes Road, shown on Assessors Map 31 lots 3B, 3C, and 4G. So will the petitioner come forward? And again, we'll have the petitioner provide whatever information. I'm going to read some emails and whatever that we've gotten from town offices. We are also going to talk about, we do have a prospective consultant. We'll talk about that. And then, and I'll open up to the petitioner. We will open it up this time for public comment after we've done our basic work in the beginning. So I'm going to start off here, though, with, because one of the main crux that we're going to have is a consultant to help us on this. And we do have one consultant that has responded who will actually do all aspects of this. It's MBL Land Development and Permitting Corporation. Maria, where did we get this? Was this from the planning board? Did they recommend this?
No, I did some research
Okay.
on some engineering firms.
Has the applicant been given, prior to right now, the information about this consultant, prospective consultant?
Did we email this to them?
No.
You didn't? Oh, okay.
Okay.
You want time to, this essentially is the only respondent. We sent it out to about like 6 people.
Yeah.
And this was the only consultant that we had that actually came back and could do it within the time frame that we need. Some of the other petitioners or contractors were just too busy. And they will, they review the project. Anyway, and it's, their estimate is $13,500 for tax specified in the proposal. And so that, our plan is then to, because this is the only one that has actually responded, that we will contact them. Is this a check from,
Heidi gave me that
Okay,
when she came in as a deposit.
that's a deposit. If there's no objections, even if there isn't, well, if it's a major objection, we can hear it now.
Yeah, absolutely. There is an objection to that peer review. For the record, Mr. Chairman, Christian Fallon, Principal Engineer and President of Fallon Corp., here tonight representing the applicant. After the last hearing, we did, as discussed, we set up a meeting with the fire department. We made some minor revisions to the plans. We added, he wanted some tanks added to the plans, the turnaround area, and to make sure that the fire trucks can get around the two cul-de-sacs.
Mhm.
So we demonstrated that to him. I believe you have.
Yes, I was gonna read that into the record, or you can do that if you want, whichever.
It's okay, I mean, you can read it into the record if you
Mhm.
want, but I just wanted to give the board as we said, we were gonna meet with them, and we did, and we addressed their comments. So they gave a recommendation letter from the fire department. Also, more importantly, into the peer review consultant. I'm not sure if the zoning board knows, but the Field Engineering, which is a local company based out of Mattapoisett, they already did a thorough review of this project.
They never got back to me.
But we reached out to them, and they didn't get back.
Well, I mean, we would like to reach out to them again, because if I can place this on file, we have extra copies if you want. I don't know,
We have this.
But we have that.
you have that already.
Mhm.
So this project, the roadway, the stormwater, there's no changes. So we feel this has been thoroughly reviewed in regards to engineering aspects of the project. The only thing that they didn't do a thorough review on is traffic. So we would like to seek another, reach out to them again to get a quote from them. We feel it's gonna be significantly then cheaper than having somebody who hasn't looked at the project go through the entire project already.
But that's, I mean, this is stuff that you've done. We need an independent consultant that we can rely on.
This was the independent
This
consultant
is the
for the planning
independent that
board.
worked for the town.
This was the field engineering report was the independent consultant report for the town of Westport when they went
When they went to the planning board.
to the planning board for the independent living facility.
Right.
But
It's
that
also
was
over,
some-
it's also over a year old.
Yes,
So again, I'm not gonna, I would not recommend that the board relies upon this, but, you know, I mean, I guess we are, you know, we can reach out to him, but I think what we spoke with the planner, Roger and I are on another board together with the planning, with the town planner, and they say most of their typical consultants, including this one, are just flat out, and that's was probably why we hadn't heard from them. We can reach out to them again, but
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think
but
that,
if we do that, we're gonna delay everything.
well, if it comes down to time, I mean, we can talk to our client and give an extension if they're saying it's gonna take them another 30 days versus MBL, then I think that's something that we would consider.
We're gonna need to know that,
Time-wise,
we're gonna need to know that now.
yeah, absolutely. Time-wise, it's gonna save a lot of time having them do the review.
Right,
And then, more importantly, for us to respond to any kind of comments that they have.
yeah, yeah.
So that would delay it even longer than having field already, that's already familiar.
That's right, but you got comments?
and,
Go ahead.
oh, no, I was just gonna say that it would have been nice if you would have brought this to our attention at our first meeting.
It would have been, but unfortunately, I
Yeah,
didn't have it. I told you I was gonna reach out to conservation
Yeah.
and fire, and this is what conservation gave us.
Yeah.
Gave us.
but your client should have known about this.
If we,
They're not
Well,
technical.
Let the attorney,
Yeah.
They're not,
Yeah, just a couple of minor points. First of all, peer review is totally within your province.
right.
So you're encouraged by the regulations to cooperate with the applicant up to a certain point, and then it's your decision. You know, there's a very broad brush to, you know, if a peer review consultant is improper, it's basically a conflict of interest or lacks the qualifications. So it's totally within your decision to say, no, we want this peer reviewer, we're gonna go forward with it. If you choose to you know, do some more due diligence about this other peer reviewer. And if they work for the planning board, then it sounds like they're known, you know, locally.
Right.
So it might be a good firm to look into. But I would recommend, first of all, a confirmed extension.
Yes,
And also that you do get a formal proposal from that peer reviewer. Even if they've looked at the project before, you want a new engagement proposal from them.
right,
And then be able to make the decision on that by the next public hearing session.
right, yes,
Yeah, I would like to say that what I would not want to see is us to reach out to them and they respond and so forth, and we were to seek their help. I would not want to see them make a photocopy of what they did a year ago and have that be what they're submitting to us. It was a different plan, a different purpose, a different housing, and so that would be a concern of mine.
We're gonna get something similar to this from this guy.
potentially.
Yes.
Maybe,
Maybe
right?
not.
Maybe not, because
Well, then we should-
it's over a year
well, we
old.
can-
There
we can
could-
request it.
Changes happen.
Well,
You have to request it. You need a new proposal from them.
yes,
Scope of work, what their review is
That's
gonna
what I'm
consist
saying.
of.
right, yes,
Yeah, and you need it in a timely manner. So if they're gonna,
yes,
if you're anticipating that you're gonna reach out, have the response or non-response between now and the next public hearing session, get the extension to give yourself on the back end for your, you know, to
'Cause-
close the public hearing, the amount of time,
right,
and then be prepared, if you don't receive a response or it's inadequate or whatever by the next time, go with the other peer reviewer.
yes, I'm okay with that.
And in reality, I'm not sure if it would be cheaper, because they're gonna have to, they can't rely on the old reports. We're requiring new stormwater reports, probably from a new consultant, that are gonna be different, so they're gonna have to look at everything again. I don't really see that it actually is gonna be cheaper,
Well, that's,
but we can try.
who knows, yeah, until we
Right?
see it, right, yeah.
Do you have?
The fact that
this-
they've been through it once before, maybe it makes it cheap, you know,
Yeah, but there's gonna be a new report, right? You're planning on.
they're not gonna
submitting-
just dust off the old report.
Yeah, well, because they're gonna review a new stormwater report from you guys, right?
Right.
We're not relying on the stormwater report based upon March 2023. I mean, do you have you gotten the stormwater report and the traffic report yet?
No.
So,
Well,
you know, what I'm finding rather frustrating here is that we're on a very tight timeline, and you knew exactly what you needed to be here, and I don't understand why the applicant was so hurried to apply until he had all the ducks in a row. That we need a stormwater report, we need a traffic study, and you said you were gonna have that done before you're gonna meet again, and now you're saying you don't have that yet.
No, I did not say that.
You don't have a
What I-
report?
What I said was we wanted to finalize the peer review, and we wanted to finalize the layout before we went ahead with the full engineering plans, which includes the stormwater report.
That's
So
not
that
my
was the big-
recollection from the meeting. It was more of that we were working in parallel in order to move this project faster. Your client asked us for peer review recommendations at the last meeting, and we said we weren't prepared to give them to him. And you said you were gonna be working on these, you would have them ready to go once we found a peer review. And if we need to go back to the tapes, we can go back to the tapes. But it was not you were waiting for us to give you a peer review in order for you to do your work. And I'm kind of frustrated here that you knew exactly what you needed based upon your previous applications to the planning board for the assisted living facility. So you're asking us to accelerate stuff. Your client wanted us to have another meeting a week later, and, and we said, there's no way we could do the peer review back, and your client, maybe not you, assured us that you were working on these things in tandem to us finding a peer review, that we would have a peer review person in place that you would then hand over immediately to move this project forward.
okay,
So,
before I get any further, I just want to make sure that we understand, the voting members for this will be Jerry Quatino, Ray Elias, myself, Roger Menard, Konstanski, and Cynthia Kosekowitz. Obviously, so obviously, the votes are not, on this are not gonna be for approving the 40B, because that's gonna be a long process. If there's votes for continuations or whatever, it's a majority vote, but those will be the voting members. I have no problem with, and I would actually encourage another consultant that we can compare against, but you're gonna have to give us leeway in the timeframe. Now, do you have authority to do that?
Yes,
Okay. Are you requesting that we do that?
yes.
Can we just write that in the meeting minutes that,
What you want to do is you want to vote, and you want to vote formally accepting the extension.
Okay.
And then they'll have to follow.
what we
up with it in
generally do is we
writing,
have the
and then it gets filed
consultant,
with
we
the
have
town.
them write, I am requesting.
Yeah.
And I agree that this is an extension of the,
Yes, and
of
then
the
you
end
give the
date.
date certain, and it gets filed with the town clerk.
Right.
So, yeah. And just
yes.
to follow up, Roger, on Cynthia's comment too, I just want to make sure you're in control of this process. So to get that proposal, it has to go from Maria or you or Cynthia, or a member of the board, to that other peer review firm. Would, we're seeking a proposal.
Yes,
When can you provide it, if
Yes.
you can provide it, and have a timeline for that to go forward? Peer review is not, and it's respectful to the representative, and this is probably not what he meant, but, I mean, I'm not loving what I'm hearing, because it's almost like, well, we're getting peer review to help us design the project.
No, right,
Peer review, as Cynthia was saying, is, you take a report, and the peer reviewer looks at it,
Right.
and then
Yes.
they comment. They don't consult with the applicant in the development of the plans, so
right. Yes.
just wanted to clarify that.
And then who ultimately, if we get another bid or proposal, who makes the decision between which
We
company
do,
to go
we do.
with? As a board?
as a board. We can then look at it, decide if, which one is more appropriate, even if the petitioner doesn't like the result.
Right.
We can pick whichever consultant we feel most comfortable with.
Do you have a business conflict with the other review?
No.
No.
And there's no business conflict with field engineering either.
No.
So we can, so the petitioner's gonna have to physically write, I request, although maybe we'd leave this to, obviously, we're gonna have to continue this hearing.
It's different.
Is it different?
Yeah, it's a
What you're
continuation of
gonna
the-
end up continuing tonight's hearing to
Yes.
another date certain for.
There's a lot of other
topics.
reasons for that.
But what you're confirming is an extension of your deadline to close the public hearing.
Yes,
So, for instance, if you're contemplating that a 30-day period is reasonable to reach out to this peer reviewer, get a proposal or not, and then be able to bring it back to the board at your next public hearing session to make a decision. Either we received nothing further, or we received this and it's, we don't want to do this, we want to go with this first peer reviewer, you determine that. So if that's a 30-day process, then I'd recommend a 30-day extension of the deadline to close your public hearing. So that would be what you'd be.
right,
the
yeah.
extension.
The way we generally handle it is, when we ever do a continuation, is we have the applicant, sign a request for a continuation, and in that same request saying that I am authorized, that,
Yeah, but you don't need, the only
Because-
difference
because
here
what-
though, Roger, is you don't need his consent to continue the hearing, because you're within your public hearing deadline.
yes,
So you don't need that from him. In other words, you're not getting it because he's agreeing to continue tonight's hearing to the next session.
Mm-hmm.
You're extending the back end of when you need to close the hearing.
Right.
Because you're going through this additional process.
right,
So-
right, but,
So you don't need his consent
He still has
when
to-
you
But-
continue.
Still has to agree.
but what,
No.
what
he
all I'm
doesn't
getting
have
at, though, is that usually in this, we agree upon a time certain for the next meeting.
Yeah, but this is
So then-
only,
That's your
different.
decision totally. You don't need his consent.
Okay,
You don't, Roger. You're within your 6 months.
yes,
So tonight, when you're done with your hearing session tonight, you're gonna discuss with the board the next time you're gonna hear it. And then the board is gonna formally continue it to to your next session. You're
Right.
within your
We're within our.
deadline, you don't need the applicant's consent.
Okay, right.
But what you do want to get is
Is-
consent and the sign off that you're saying.
For the
I don't get-
second delay, because we already have one on the record.
Is for just determining what the applicant is agreeing is the extended deadline to close the public hearing. Not your next session, to close it,
Close the hearing.
yes. And that deadline was 6 months from when you opened it,
Oh, okay, okay.
all right? So
Yes.
if that's, I can't do math this quickly, I was up late last night watching the big map and all that, but, so I'm a little sleep deprived, but, so I can't do math in my head, but say
Yeah.
it's, your existing deadline is March 15th, you want to get it to
Yeah,
April 15th.
Right. But we won't, but we'll have to, it's not just a month, it's the next hearing. The next hearing may not be a month from now.
No, that, but we're.
Yeah, I know it, but I mean, I can't just say it's 30 days, because we're not gonna be here to decide anything in 30 days.
No, it's 30 days from the, there's two things we have to decide, right? When our next meeting is,
That's-
and
yeah.
two, that he has to approve that we are delaying our final decision date to 6 months and another 30 days,
Right.
or 45 days, whatever we
Whatever,
decide.
yes, and that's what I'm
That's the
getting at.
first
It's
thing.
not just 30 days, it's the time period in between now and next, and when we schedule the next.
No, no.
Maria,
he's-
do you know
he's-
what
he's-
Because,
I understand what
I-
he's saying, he's just saying, because as a practical matter, it's delaying it that much. Even-
Well, so, exactly, so there's two delays. There's a delay in which we need to do our work, to do the work that he requested, and then the fact that we're rescheduling a date. So we don't know exactly how many days we want to extend this. I guess it's a
Right.
matter of, what I would like to see is that at the next meeting, whenever that it is, that we would, I think is what we agreed upon before, if we had come up with a consultant, we would let you know who it was. And you would send them immediately the stormwater as well as the other matters, so, but it sounds like they haven't done that part, so, you know, I would like, when we finally decide who that consultant is, that you're ready to send that material to the consultant, because I am pretty sure that that's what we agreed upon last time, and,
Yeah, and that's totally reasonable. So if you figure it out right now, I know you're not gonna continue till the end when you're done, but if you figure out in your mind now, well, when we're done tonight, how long is it gonna take them to get their reporting done? How long is it gonna take Maria to reach out and determine whether or not you're gonna get another proposed scope? If that's 45 days
45
or,
days, yeah,
you know, and then just get documented from him that that he agrees to the back-end deadline. And then later on, that'll just be your continued hearing date.
yeah.
So whatever you think
Yeah.
that would be.
Yeah. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, so we need to vote on,
You need to determine what the agreed extension of the deadline for
deadline to
closing the
close the
public
hearing.
hearing.
Right, yeah, we're,
And then you'll vote to accept that.
right.
Then you're
So-
gonna proceed with your hearing,
Right.
and then at the
So,
end,
but he has to make does he have to make a request to, no, we don't do that.
yeah, but you're talking about it now, so why
Mm-hmm. What's
don't we
it-
try to
so-
figure it out?
Okay.
what's the deadline?
45 days.
Right, but no, what's the deadline without extension right now?
The application was filed on August 28th.
Mm-hmm,
The applicant requested a continuance from the first hearing, which was September 25th, to October 2nd.
But that's just still
That
part
was
of
with
it.
an agreement of the deadline extension.
right, so it's 6 months from October 2nd.
Right. That's when
Is
you
it-
open the public hearing, October 2nd?
Mm-hmm.
That's, all right, so that's your clock.
That's our clock.
It was, well, it was opened on September 25th.
But he
because it was
agreed.
noticed, But it was only to continue it to the 2nd of
Yeah.
October.
Okay.
And he agreed on
At
the,
the applicant's
they agreed on the
request.
week extension.
So 6 months from October
October.
2,
April.
and then, yeah,
November, December,
I'm
January,
not doing
February,
math,
March,
and
April.
then
We
whatever
want-
you think you
We
need.
want May
Is it-
15th.
Is it months or is it days? Is
roughly.
it actually,
What?
is the statute months or days?
Well, it's 180 days,
So that's different than 6 months.
yeah, but it is,
I can figure, I got a little calculator right here. Where did I put my phone? No, I'm a patent attorney, days are very important. So we do start date
October
of
2nd.
October 2nd,
80
and
days.
done, and the end date is, let's say, 2025. Come on, move over. April, let's say April 2nd is, actually, from October 2nd to April, Wednesday, April 2nd is 182 days.
Yeah.
So actually, it's gonna be March 31st, right?
First, no, add 45 days to that.
I'm just gonna check my math. So March 31st is, and then we add 45 days from, okay, now I gotta do done, so March
Like
31st.
Beginning of middle of May somewhere.
It's gonna be by my birthday, I ain't gonna be around. So we got, this, they said that, the one on this doesn't actually let you do the extra, add the days. So that would be approximately May 15th, right?
Yeah.
Done. Let's
And
just-
the elegance of this is it's a date that you don't need to worry about calculating it. 'Cause once you're comfortable with that date,
Right.
that'll be your deadline.
So, yeah, so we can say 45 days, right? Thursday, May 15th is 45 days, so I would suggest that we actually do it to the following Wednesday, right? Because we only meet on Wednesdays. Or do you want to do it a day early, the 44 days of,
Well, this
Wednesday.
is when we close, this is.
closing the hearing,
Closing.
closing the hearing, okay.
Right.
All right, gotcha.
May-
So Thursday, May 15th.
Yeah, I mean, we can do it the day before, if that's the
That's actually
deadline.
perfect, yeah,
That's the deadline. That's
Yeah.
actually good.
yeah.
Yeah, and you have 40 days to issue your decision after you close.
And I have 40 days
Know
to
that.
issue a decision.
Yeah, okay.
That's when we close the hearing.
Close the hearing, then you have 40 days.
All right. So, again, does he have to,
Yeah, he should,
he needs to,
yes, he should request that, you should vote to accept it,
yes,
plus you.
right.
And
So
then,
we need to
and then
just
there'll
say,
be a
I-
writing that they sign and you'll file with the town clerk.
Request to extend the permitting 45 days to May 15th.
2025.
The deadline to close the public hearing to May 15th.
Okay,
Provide a letter
we
as
have,
well.
we have a request, I make a motion to grant a request to increase the deadline to May 15th, 2025.
Can you-
Close the
can you
public
put
hearing.
in- can
Close
you
the
put-
public hearing.
Right.
Can you put in that the reason we're doing it?
Do we need to?
No.
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 Okay.
Have a second?
Yep, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we can get on with business. So what we'll do, Maria, reach out to the firm again and contact them and see if in fact we can get a proposal from them within that time frame, within the next, few weeks.
Did you email them or call them or,
I emailed
okay.
originally, but I emailed the actual owner. I
Yeah.
didn't email. the
So
customer.
maybe we have a phone number now, maybe just put
Well,
a
I
phone,
have the 1 year
yeah, you can just sort of,
report.
and, well, it's gonna be a different report, they're gonna be,
Right, but
no,
I mean,
never-
I can always
You-
contact him.
Right, we
yeah,
find
you
out.
can contact them and say, this is before us again, there's some changes being made, can you do this, and within
And I'll follow up with him.
and we should also check with the other firm, because we gave them a different
Right,
deadline, they may not be able to now.
right, that's,
Yeah.
I
Just
mean, we
because we're
did
reaching out
that,
to them
figuring
doesn't-
that he would have his.
This does not necessarily mean we're gonna hire these people.
Right,
Right.
but we also need to make sure that the
Right.
other firm can
it's still
actually,
available.
is still
It's
available.
Yes. Yes, can reach out to them as well, I'm saying there may be a delay, if it's another month, you still are going to be
Yeah, I
available
guess,
to do this.
I would like to ask the applicant when they think they'll have the information to give to the third-party reviewer.
Mr. Chairman, I was just told that MBL may be a conflict with Delphic Associates,
Why is
who's
that?
the 40B developer, because they're gonna check to see if they have any ongoing projects together, but they do work with them on 40B projects.
Well,
So
then
I will
don't
let you
also
know.
work with Fields?
Not on 40B, no.
Wait a minute.
So-
Not on 40B, or you don't work with them at all?
We don't work with them at all.
And yet,
But-
I thought we got their.
That was us, that was the town conflict, the town contracting with them, so.
Can we ask for
A waiver.
confirmation of that from,
Yeah, absolutely.
from MBL?
Well, they got copies of everything that had been filed by the applicant
And they didn't
to
deem,
review, and they never said anything
there was,
about
they
it.
didn't deem it to be a conflict on their side, because you gave them did you give them the name of the applicant?
They had everything.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave it up to,
I mean, usually they would flag it, that
Yeah.
they request the applicant.
I just wanted to bring it, I just wanted to bring it up.
We may not have anything active at this time. I would have to go and look at some of our other developments to make sure they're not the engineers that are active now. But we have worked with them in the past.
Well, I assume you've worked with a lot of people in the past.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you could disqualify
yes, about
probably half of
conflict, we want to put it out there.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
we can confirm.
Yes.
We just,
Okay, I just want to clean up some of the documentation before we move forward.
Sure.
Again, you mentioned the Westport Fire Department, so I'll read. The roadway, this is from the Westport Fire Department Plan Review, Pine Ridge Estates. The roadway design, fire department access shall comply with 527 CMR 1 C18, minimum 20-foot width, not including any Cape Cod berms. Minimum cul-de-sac of 60 feet, 125 feet, I guess that means diameter, not including the berm edge. Center of the cul-de-sac shall remain free of obstructions preventing firefighting operations. Road length 150 feet or greater, provide a turnaround at the dead end, hammerhead. Fire apparatus, access road shall have an unobstructed vertical clearance of not less than 13 feet 6 inches. The angle of approach and departure of any means of fire apparatus access road shall not exceed a 1-foot drop in 20 feet, or the design limitations of the fire apparatus of the fire department, and shall be subject to approval of the AHJ, which is the fire department. Display of street address number on dwelling buildings used in enhanced 911 service. Addresses, street signs shall be posted and visible from the roadway prior to final inspection. Access boxes, lock boxes may be installed undetermined at this time. Fire protection regulations, in accordance with the Fire Protection Regulation 100, subsurface water storage tank shall be installed within 750 feet of a structure. Fire department permit is required prior to the installation. The water storage tank shall be protected, filled, dressed with appropriate appliances approved by AHJ, and in service prior to occupancy. The fire department shall inspect the water storage tanks for function prior to any occupancy. All subsurface water tanks shall be located within easements provided exclusively for this purpose. Tanks shall not be more than 1,500 feet apart, so that every residential structure shall be within 750 feet of a subsurface water storage tank. Each suction puck shall be located at least 7 feet, but no more than 9 feet from the edge of the travelway. No parking, keep clear signage, barrier protection at the subsurface water tank area. If needed, utility signage for electrical and gas emergency shut-off shall be provided. Undetermined, the distance from one service tank to the furthest structure, you may need 2 tanks. Hammerhead turnaround, cul-de-sac radius, fire protection regulations. Any questions, call Chief Mark, anyway, fire department. That's from the fire department. I also have something from the highway department. The highway surveyor, to whom it may concern, the highway department has no jurisdiction on unaccepted town roads. Upon evaluation, my recommendations are as follows. Vegetation should be cut back for visibility and safety to the Route 177 intersection. Stop signs should be installed at the Route 177 intersection.
Police chief.
What else do we have here?
You got from the police chief, do you want it?
Fire chief?
Yeah, the police chief,
Police chief.
Chief Dunn.
Oh, down to police chief. I hope you have a nice week. Police Department does not have any comments regarding Pine Ridge Estates project. Thank you. That was this one. Yep, okay.
Yeah.
I
Then we have planning
do have a
board
thing for
comments.
field engineering.
Do we have planning board comments yet?
Yes, I'm going to read those next. This was May 22nd, 2024. Michael Burris, Town Planner. In response to Town Administrator's request for comment on Pine Ridge Estates 40B proposal, the Planning Board discussed and forwarded the following recommendations at their 5/21/2024 regular meeting. The Board recommended that the planning staff assist the ZBA by providing a thorough analysis of the proposal. Staff provided a similar analysis for the applicant prior submission under the Independent Living Facility Bylaw. The applicant's 40B plans are conceptually based upon that prior submission. The board noticed that water and wastewater provisions were not included in the applicant's plans. The board recommended that the applicant include a denitrifying community wastewater disposal system. The board recommends that the applicant meet the Board of Health's stormwater standards. The homeowners association will be necessary to maintain private infrastructure. The applicant should include an infrastructure maintenance plan to be provided to the ZBA and the homeowners association. The board asked if either the proposed roadway and/or Westport Lake drives are intended to be submitted to the town for roadway acceptance. The board recommended that the upgrades to the existing Westport Lakes Drive will likely be necessary to accommodate the increased traffic demand. The board recommended that the applicant provide the ZBA a traffic study to demonstrate the proposed will not result in a reduction of the service to level D or lower. Again, that's from the planning board. I think that's about it. There was a note there about, and I guess I should read this. It's in relation to the Westport Lakes development, and again, it's from Michael Burris, the town planner. As you may be aware, the town of Westport Zoning Board of Appeals is currently reviewing the proposed 40B development located off Westport Lakes Drive. Residents on Westport Lakes Drive have expressed concerns about the conditions of the roadway as it was never fully constructed. The Westport Planning Board holds $123,000 in surety to make improvements to the subdivision. I'm reaching out to request status on the update to the project. Does the current owner, Coastal Harvest LLC, have plans to continue moving forward with development? And I did get something just recently from them saying that they do plan on further development in that area. So there was a later email from the town planner saying that they may want to hold off on doing any improvements to that road until whatever further development is being done, because you've got all this heavy traffic that's going over it.
They also said that they were going to start two foundations, but yet there's no permits
Right, so I mean, I have an email from, a couple of emails from residents, but I'd really rather have them actually come up, and we will get to them shortly, have them come up and actually speak rather than having me read their comments.
Well,
One that can't be here,
because
so,
he can't be here, because he can't be here.
Okay, there's one that can't be here?
yes. There was, here. I found my last meeting to the, yeah, this one. From, Becho Ferrez. So it's Becho,
Oh, okay, I have it here. They can't be here? Okay.
yeah.
So I will read this then. My name is Bezo Fariz. I live at 64 Westport Lakes Drive, and I am a family of 4. Me and my neighbors went to the last meeting to say our comments and complaints, but unfortunately, the chair said there was no comments for public at the previous meeting, and all neighbors are going tonight. But unfortunately, I can't make it there tonight because I'm working. I tried to make the night, but I couldn't do so, so I'm worried about my kids and my family. There's going to be a lot of traffic on the street. Also, they want to put a place for a school bus in Westport Lakes Drive, which is going to make it difficult for us there, and they want their entrance from Westport Lakes Drive, which is our street, and this is not fair to us who live on that street. I know we only 5 houses now, but in the future, it's going to be more house, and it's going to be more hard and struggling for our families. if I can vote no to this project and let the board know, I really appreciate it, and thank you, Bezo, Therese, that's, okay. So, I think we're up to date on documentation. So, I'll open up again to the petitioner, any other topics you want to discuss tonight? And what I'd like to then do is then plan, what are the future meetings,
Sure.
sort of a roadmap of how we're gonna, get to the final product.
Sure. If I may, Mr. Chairman, can I request all the documents that have been
Yes.
filed? Because I don't believe we received most of them.
Okay,
Especially the peer review. I mean, if we get a peer review, a couple weeks before our meeting, it'll be great for us to review that before we are at the meeting. That way, it just makes things more efficient for us. If we have any questions when just reading it at the time of the meeting.
yep,
It just helps us prepare. That would be greatly appreciated. If we want to schedule the next meeting, I would say we would probably need a good, another 4 to 5 weeks to get this drainage report completed, now that we're gonna stay with this layout. I was under the impression, and I apologize, I thought we were gonna talk about the peer review and make sure the layout was good. If the board had any additional questions or concerns. But hearing there's not, so we'll proceed with finalizing the engineering plans on this.
The drainage and the traffic.
Correct. The traffic has already been authorized, they were 6 weeks out, so it's.
Yeah. That's what,
So
again, that's what we were facing.
We are hoping to have that at the next meeting. And again, it's my fault for not having the drainage done. Just didn't want to finalize it until we knew exactly. But yeah, we will, if we want to pick a date for the next meeting.
now, I assume you have the copy of the report from the fire chief.
We are,
How does that affect your plans?
we've already addressed all these comments. I don't know if you have the revised letter. Do you have the revised? Yeah, the revised is stating that we did meet his requirements, which are noted here in red. So we did meet all his
Okay.
requirements. So I don't know if there's really nothing else to do from them. I don't know if you want to request a new letter. It looks like he just amended his with the revision and the stuff in red here, which we gave him the information on. So that has been done already.
When you say you met them, my understanding of that was certain things that you will be expected to do, but you haven't done them yet. Is that
We did do
correct?
them. No, we did do them. We reached out, actually, he reached out to us after the meeting,
Yeah.
actually the next day.
But for example, we'll say the access for the equipment, for the fire equipment, it hasn't been built yet.
But they've changed the plans.
That's what I'm saying, you've addressed it by your plan, is that correct?
Correct.
Actually,
The plan,
yeah.
yeah.
So,
And they're okayed by the fire
I mean, you
department
haven't-
once they're built.
Yeah, I mean, it's not built yet, but I mean,
yeah, I mean, I don't consider
plans-
that.
the plans are in
meeting,
compliance.
It's, the plan is okay,
Yeah.
but you haven't built it yet.
No.
No, obviously.
No.
Just want to be clear on that.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, the only other, that's really the only update we have in regards to the plan revision. So at the next meeting, we'll have everything ready to go, and hopefully we can pick a consultant. Whether it's MBL or Field has time to do it, it doesn't really. As an engineer, I just know it's, being familiar with a project, it can save a lot of time, especially little technical stuff, and being familiar with Westport.
So you don't have any other major,
No, I would just say, I
areas
would
that we
just make
wanna-
sure that this is, and they're gonna do a full review,
Mhm.
because if you didn't give them a copy of the stormwater report, I don't want them to say, well, we didn't know we were reviewing the stormwater report. You know what I mean? That could be another 15,000. So I just don't know the discussions that anybody had with them, or if there was a clear scope.
Right, on MBL, it says a clear scope. It says, review the project submission, including stormwater, wetlands, and traffic components for complete with state regulations. Conduct one on-site, prepare a written peer review letter, and attend any meetings if required.
Yeah, but then if you look at the next documents to be reviewed, there's no stormwater report there. So I just wanna make sure that MBL is clear, is what I'm trying to say. Not saying they're not including it, but I think it would be good for them to maybe take a look at their scope to make sure that that's included.
Okay.
Just don't want any, you know,
Yeah.
want them saying, hey, I'm upset with you guys.
We didn't, right.
Yeah,
Yes,
because that would just delay it. you
yes,
know?
yes.
And again, they're gonna have to review, again, documents to review, there should be the traffic report, as well. Just so we're all on the same page. We're just trying to, you know, be as efficient as possible. We know time is very tight, and we wanna make sure we have everything that they're gonna need.
It was contended by the applicant that they felt there might be a conflict on that, and so I think that should be looked into, addressed.
We will.
Whatever way, I guess they could provide.
We'll provide everything that we have, and then if you wanna, you know,
Right.
ask council for a determination, I mean, I don't have any issues with MBL, I mean, but if you feel like there's a conflict because they work with Delphic, I'll leave that up to the board and council for that, that's more of a legal.
It seemed to
Then
me in
engineer
It would
in
really be the
first-
peer reviewer to note it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't pass on it. I don't determine a conflict of
Yeah.
interest issue for a peer reviewer. If they think that there's an
They-
issue, they should tell you.
Yep.
Right, right.
During the first hearing, wasn't there some mention of a project in Mattapoisett?
Yeah.
There was.
Yeah, now, was that Field that was doing that, or was that?
No, that's us.
Okay.
The Brent Highland Village,
Yeah.
that was when I recommended the
Yeah, we
board
should go
wants to
down and
visit,
visit.
because it's very similar in small lots, I
Yeah.
know you're concerned with.
Was that Brant
lot
Island?
size.
Brant Island?
Off of Brent Highland Road, yeah, yep.
And that was something you did, your engineering firm, not you.
We
and
actually were
Delphic.
the engineer and the developer of it.
Okay, so it's not, Delphic wasn't involved with it.
Delphic was not involved with
Now, is that completed, or,
it. It's 2 houses left out of 26,
I see.
yeah, so it's pretty
So
close.
basically completed.
Yeah, so it'll give you a good visual
Mhm.
of,
Sounds
you know,
good.
lot sizes and so forth. Although those houses are a lot larger than what these houses will be,
Yeah.
but I'll give you an idea.
So should we open it up for public comments?
Yes, that was gonna be my next, if there's no other major business, I'll
Nope.
open it up for, is Mr. Pereira here?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was gonna read your email, but I'd really rather just have you come up and talk about it. It's be a whole lot more beneficial for us to hear it from you firsthand.
Brent Pereira, 26 Westport Lakes Drive. Regarding the email, I submitted that the day after the previous meeting because I was pretty upset with the fact that we couldn't make public comment. I do have, in essence of time, I don't think I could go over all of my concerns right now. I don't know how much time we have to be able to do that. As far as the public, I have a list here that's similar to my email, that's a little bit more defined. I don't know if I could submit that directly.
But even if you submit it, then I'm probably gonna read it.
Right,
So,
it would be good for you to sort
Go
of address your
ahead.
concerns.
go ahead.
No,
You've got
we're-
our attention, we're here.
We were planning on being here all night, so.
All right, so if I could begin with some documents that I provided for the during the last meetings from SiteTech, and then from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the Executive Office of Energy Affairs. Do you all have that by chance that we could look it over while I speak about it?
Yeah.
Just a couple of things that I wanted to talk about regarding
Yeah.
the evolution of Westport Lakes Drive and the applicant, Mr. Dean, and how long he has been with that property since about 2001, up until, I believe, up until now.
Well, before we go, did you state your name and address? You
did.
Okay, good.
I did. On the last meeting, Mr. Cussin, I believe, from Delphic, made a number of statements that I don't believe to be true as far as this applicant's relationship with the current developer that now owns the rights or whatever it is for Westport Lakes Drive. Basically, the timeline goes where Brad Dean, who's the current applicant, he owned the land along with his sister and some other family. He went through a very intrusive permitting process through the state in order to get what is there currently now. Initially, he had a plan like this, which was considered the phase 2 of the project. He had phase 1 of the project, which is essentially what Westport Lakes Drive is currently, and then he had a phase 2 proposition, which is nearly identical to this, with a number of residents, maybe 40 or so in the phase 2, what was originally planned. As far as what I'd like to talk about with that is, I have good reason to believe, based on the permitting process and what he went through with the state, through the state process of checks, that he gave up the right to develop this parcel of land that they're looking to develop now, as far as the phase 2 component. If you refer to the site tech document, I just would like to just point out a couple of things. So as far as the project summary, I'll just read it verbatim. The Westport Lakes project is proposed as a single-family residential subdivision located on the north side of American Legion Highway, Route 177 in Westport, Mass. The project is currently under MEPA review, EOEA 12703, with the most recent action relative to this project being the issuance of Certificate of Secretary of Engineering and Environmental Affairs and the draft Environmental Impact Report, dated 14/2008. A copy of this certificate is contained in Appendix A. The project has evolved over time from a 9-hole golf course with 72 residential units and 4 single-house lots to the current 32-family house lot plan. The current project configuration was described in the 3rd notice of project change, which was filed with MEPA on July 26, 2006. It goes on to talk about the DEIR, which is the Draft Environmental Impact Report. At the time, the proponent was contemplating developing 31 single-family lots for phase 1, a potential second phase for the second project to be located on a 64-acre portion of the site, which I believe to be this one that the applicant is currently looking to get approved. The second phase, which was projected to consist of a maximum of 40 condominium units with a community building to be constructed off Golfview Lane. These units in the community building were proposed by the service of a private driveway system, individual wells for drinking water, and a common septic system in a community building. It goes on to read on page 4. After careful consideration, the residential housing market and the associated site impact, the proponent has determined that a phase 2 condominium development is not feasible, and a strong market exists for the use of a phase 2 development parcel as a single estate-style lot as part of the initial land development. It goes on to read, elimination of any phase 2 development results in 32-lot, single-phase, single-family residential project. The proponent understands MEPA's position on the project phasing and reconfirms the scope of this project is limited to 32 family house lots to be constructed in a single phase. On the bottom of page 4, future development. The DEIR and associated certificate contains an evaluation of a future phase 2, which was proposed for the 64.2 acre position of the site. This parcel was further depicted as a portion lot on the lot 32 on the site plan. As previously stated, the phase 2 has been eliminated from the scope of work and is no longer under consideration for development other than as a single-family house lot. Due to the elimination of the 40-unit phase 2 from lot 32, the fourth notice of project change is not required. There are no significant environmental issues associated with the construction of a single-family dwelling on lot 32. Access to this lot will be provided by a driveway constructed from a cul-de-sac at the end of Golfview Lane. The actual Certificate of Secretary of Engineering and Environmental Affairs, the final environmental impact report. Says, just read the project description real quickly. The proponent, it's repetitive to this, but it's important. The proponent proposes to construct a standard residential subdivision consisting of a total of 33 single-family houses, approximately 3,500 linear foot roadway, stormwater infrastructure improvements on a 216-acre site located near the intersection of Route 88 and 177 in Westport. It goes through a number of project changes based on environmental impacts that was going to be incurred on the initial project. Future development, this is what, I'd like to stress this pretty good because Brad Dean has been involved in this land for a long time. Paul Cusson, on the last meeting, suggested that Mr. Dean is no longer associated with the current development that's here, known as Westport Lakes Drive. We have 5 houses there. The road was cut in 2008. One house was built on that roadway in 2008, and then nothing happened until 2017. Absolutely nothing. In and around 2017, Mr. Dean sold the development essentially to Coastal Harvest. Since then, 4 other houses has been built. That was from 2017 till now. The assumption that he should be trusted with building a project of this capacity is crazy to me because he's had this land since 2001, and he's done nearly nothing with it except to build himself a house, to which I now own with my family. As far as back to this, the report from the state, it specifically says future development. The previously submitted DEIR for this project, February 6, 2008, including a conceptual future development plan, Phase 2, for a 139-acre development parcel, Lot 33, located in the western portion of the project site. According to the information provided in the FEIR, Final Environmental Impact Report, the project design has been modified to eliminate the Phase 2 development plan from Lot 33 and to incorporate its development within the proponent's Phase 1 development program as a 139-acre single-family estate-style lot. Access to this lot will be provided via a driveway to be constructed beginning at the end of the proposed Gulf View Lane cul-de-sac. Should the proposal for the development of Lot 33, which is, under my belief, is what the current project is, proposed to be built at Lot 33, I believe it's considered something else, Lot 10 or 4 and 10, or I'm not sure which one it is. Should the proposal for the development of Lot 33 change as future plans for the site evolve, the proponent will need to file a notice of project change with the MEPA office. The NPC will need to discuss the potential cumulative infrastructure, environmental impacts associated with all development activities within the proponent site, the project site, including but not limited to traffic, water supply, wastewater, rare species, wetlands, and site planning issues. I'll digress on that document because you all have the copy and you can review it at your leisure. As far as this is concerned, Brad Dean has already proposed a similar project like this under the assisted living proponent through the planning board. They withdrew because they were not going to be able to, they didn't fall under the definition of assisted living, so they withdrew their project, and now they're submitting this under 40B. From my understanding, in contact with MEPA, the MEPA office, to this date, Brad Dean or the applicant or Delphic or Farland has not contacted the MEPA office and made notification of them of the project change, which is happening now, from what I'm to believe. They should be required to recontact or re-engage with MEPA and notify them that they are now intending to develop this land, to which they agreed to, one, not develop fully as proposed, but to put it into like a state-style one single-family house lot. From my understanding, they have not contacted MEPA, and in not contacting MEPA, on the previous application, nor contacting them on this application, shows that he's not willing to conform with things that were set into place way back in 2008. On the previous meeting, Mr. Cusson made some statements that Brad Dean, the current applicant, has no association with Coastal Harvest, which is the new developer who he, along with his family, sold to Coastal Harvest, essentially. If I could, I don't know if I could pass these out. This is basically, I found this on the Registry of Deeds. And it basically just shows a timeline as far as Brad Dean owning the property.
There.
Mr. Chairman,
can I have
a copy of that and pass around?
I wasn't able to make enough.
That's okay. I'll make it.
Essentially, what this is just to show the board that Brad Dean was always involved in Westport Lakes Drive, and I have good reason to believe that he is still involved with Westport Lakes Drive, despite the fact that he sold the development to Coastal Harvest. The first page is just the manager's certificate. It basically outlines Shannon Corey, Lisa Eston, and Brad Dean as managers of that property. The second document is a subordination of mortgage. So this happened in 2017. If you read through the document, it basically conveys that Brad Dean, as part of Blue Cat LLC, and then previous to that, American Links Course, sold the development or landmass that is now Westport Lakes Drive to Coastal Harvest for $2 million. The only reason why I'm laying this out is just to show track record that Brad Dean, I don't mean to repeat myself, that he was involved, he's always been involved, and he's still involved in the project. Just to reiterate, Mr. Cusson, on the last meeting, on a number of occasions said that Brad Dean has nothing to do with the current developer. And he made some comments to the fact that the road conditions and the way that it's overgrown and the condition of the roadway that is now has nothing to do with Brad Dean. It only lies in the hands of Coastal Harvest, which is not true, because like I just said, Brad Dean has been owner of this project or property since at least 2001. Since he sold it to Coastal Harvest, he, in fact, has had his hand in transferring of some of the lots over Coastal Harvest. So he still had signature power over Coastal Harvest in order to release lots for sale. And this is the latter couple of pages there are just partial release of mortgage. It just shows lot 11, which is 64 Westport Lakes Drive, lot 4, and lot 20. These are the ones that I could find this evening. And if you notice that the dates are on those consecutively, from 2019, 2021, and then the most recent lot sale that I could track was in 2022. So as recent as 2 short years ago, Brad Dean has still had power over Westport Lakes Drive, even though he sold it essentially to another developer. I feel it necessary to just point these things out because of all the things that were said in the last meeting and what Mr. Dean is trying to accomplish with this project. He has owned the land since 2001, or at least as far as I could track. He, along with family, which was American Links Course, and then Blue Cat LLC, and now he's changed his LLC once again to Pine Ridge Estates. He has been essentially a failure in developing this land since 2001. And I believe that he's still a failure for further development up until now, even though Coastal Harvest still owns the rights to the land or to sell it as a developer. I have firm reason to believe that he still has signing power to release those lots, which definitively shows that he still has his hand in Westport Lakes Drive. And just to reiterate, he's done nothing to the road except for build one house for himself since 2008. Beyond that, Coastal Harvest, who's the current developer out of Freetown, it lines it out in these documents. Brad Dean had Coastal Harvest build an addition to his house, which is on Westport Lakes Drive, back in 2011. So moreover, it shows that he has connections with Coastal Harvest. He has had them for a number of years, and he still has them up until this day. And again, I firmly believe that he was a failure to develop a simple 25-lot subdivision, built one house, sold it over 20-something years, and now he wants us to believe that he's capable of following through on a project of this size and magnitude. I don't believe that's going to be the case. My email that I submitted, I had a number of questions and concerns and comments. These are a list of my questions, concerns, and comments. Again, in the essence of time, I don't know, do you want me to just read them? Just to start. The well proposal for this project, 38 wells on each lot. Will the wells be dug prior to construction as a condition of ensure proper sustainability, demand, and portability? Will wells be certified? Should we demand, the town of Westport demand that a hydrologic report to ensure the sustainability and potential effects on surrounding wells? Digging wells require significant disruption to the land in mass in order to get to the land mass, in order to get trucks to the location. Should a project like this require what would be considered a public water supply, as opposed to having individual wells for each individual house, which are on non-conforming lots, which means that these wells will be closer to each other than under normal conditions? Do we have reason to believe that these 38 wells are going to be able to sufficiently supply these houses with potable water and enough for demand? Phasing for this proposal is destined to fail. Mr. Dean failed once already to develop Westport Lakes Drive, considering the affordable component houses will only be available sporadically. What would become of a project that has only one entrance and egress look like under construction and occupancy at the same time? On the meeting last month, it was suggested that this project be phased. I understand the whole thing probably conceivably couldn't be built all in one shot. However, if they phase this project out with only one entrance and egress, how do you build some of it, have it occupied, and then have the rest of it be built and it to be safe? Some of the previous regulations that were required of Mr. Dean when he got the permitting for Westport Lakes Drive was that he was supposed to replicate wetlands in part of the property because of a wetlands area that was disturbed because of Westport Lakes Road, close to 177, where the road itself goes over a stream. And it also is comprised of 2 tunnels, or a tunnel for a turtle crossing or animal crossing. I have good reason to believe that Brad Dean didn't complete that wetlands replication, and I would concede that I would implore the ZBA to check with Conservation Commission to see if they actually followed through with the replication of the wetlands that they were required to do based on the phase 1 of this project. I don't even know if that's possible. If the Concom even has record of that, I would assume that they would if he did it. To provide documentation as far as the requirements for wetland replication because of that crossing that occurs that's on Westport Lakes Drive, if necessary. As far as my first documents that I provided, does the 40B component of this project absolve the previous requirement to file a notice of project change with MIPA? I believe that answer is no. I believe that they should have 2 years ago, when they, or a year ago, when they proposed the first independent living, which they withdrew from the planning board. And I propose that they should be contacting MIPA for this project as well. And again, I have good reason to believe, because I've contacted MIPA myself, that they have not done so. And the fact that they have not done so shows that he can't be trusted to start a project of this magnitude. The current stormwater design for Westport Lakes Drive was approved back in 2008. The road was built. All that stormwater areas and the retention ponds were built in 2008 or 2009. None of those areas have been maintained since then, and they are all completely grown in with trees and shrubs and everything else. It's my understanding that those wastewater managements or the stormwater management areas need to be maintained throughout time so that they can, one, be kept up to the original design, and two, to be inspected periodically, which that has not been done. A reasonable person would expect that if you build this in the woods adjacent to Westport Lakes Drive, stormwater is going to change despite all of these retention ponds and all this design. That's all going to come back to Westport Lakes Drive. And I don't believe that Westport Lakes Drive's current stormwater management system would be enough to handle this new construction. Moreover, the stormwater design that was put into place is essentially in disrepair. The catch basins are there. They're covered with dirt and leaves. They don't provide proper flow. There's a large stormwater area across the street from where I live. It's completely grown in, and it hasn't been managed since 2008, as far as I can tell. If any of the board has ever taken a personal ride on Westport Lakes Drive, you would see that the road condition is deplorable. To think that the town would take the bond from Brad Dean, to which he paid in 2008, to fix the road, it makes no sense to me. The road in its condition now currently, in my opinion, which I think the town should take into consideration as far as the peer review, where we need to determine if the roadway, which is a private way, can handle both construction traffic, which is significant, as well as traffic for these 38 homes, without some significant repair. And assuming the fact that, from the last meeting, that Brad Dean has nothing to do, according to Paul Cusson, with the current developer, and I don't think that he should be bailed out by the town using his bond, although I understand that's what it's for. I don't believe he should be bailed out to fix this road in order to do another project that, in my opinion, is destined to fail. The road surface is 17-plus years old. Cracks, grass growing through, multiple patches. The road base, in my opinion, would have to be removed completely, recompacted, and potentially material be brought in, recompacted, an asphalt base would have to be put back down, and then, after construction is done, then you would have to put the top coat on to finish. The idea of running construction vehicles over the road as it currently exists, to me, is a disaster waiting to happen. Just to go back to those two crossings that exist under the roadway, I've looked at them myself. They appear still legitimate. I don't know if they're designed to handle construction equipment as such that would be required to do this type of project. I think that would be important for the town to make sure that those crossovers and those tunnels that go underneath would be capable of handling construction traffic. I have good reason to believe that they could potentially fail, and then the roadway would be impassable. I was going to talk about the D-Night systems that requires through Westport new construction. However, I think that's already been addressed. There's been some conversation with Emerald Bus Company that we've had over the last couple of weeks. I know there was a comment brought up on the last meeting whether a school bus would go up to facilitate all these new houses. And the answer to that is they will not go up there. They don't come down Westport Lakes now for 5 houses, nor will they ever come down, as according to the conversations that we've had through Emerald's bus, would ever come down to access these 38 new homes, if that means anything to the board. We currently don't get mail on our street. We have to have our mailboxes at the top of the street at 177. I would have good reason to believe that the post office wouldn't access these houses either, unless there was some type of mail station that was put up. I don't know where that would happen, but I would, considering that they don't even go down Westport Lakes Drive to service us as far as mail is concerned, I would assume that all the mail boxes and such would have to be on 177 as well, which is technically land that's not owned by Brad Dean currently, the applicant for this project. Also, I would ask the board to look into the electrical utilities in the existing infrastructure. Currently, it's underground cabling to provide electric power to the houses. I would be curious to know if what was installed there for Westport Lakes Drive to service 35 houses or 25 houses is significant enough to supply the potential build-out of Westport Lakes Drive, which would be 25 or so houses, if it was completely developed, plus 38 new homes. I think that's all I have for now.
Okay,
Thank you.
I mean, I'd like you to comment on this, but obviously this is a long list and something that you can then, if you don't already have his comments, we can provide you with his comments so that in the future you can address all of those concerns.
Yeah, if you may, Mr. Chairman, if you provided an email,
Mhm.
if you can provide that to us, we can certainly be prepared to address all those comments.
Right.
Certainly, it sounds like, to me, a lot of them are really not in the jurisdiction of the application here tonight, especially in regards to the NEPA filing, which right now we're only proposing 25, the development of the 25 acres, not the overall 132 acres. So a lot of that stuff is really irrelevant. Also, I believe it's irrelevant.
Well, I mean, these are all things that you can answer,
Yeah.
We refer you to be able to
No.
see these papers and answer them correctly rather than.
It'd be easier if we
say
just send you an
something
email
that
with
You may
it.
have to
That would be
recant.
great.
yes.
Is it okay if I provide those questions that I just read? I mean, it probably.
What's that?
is, yeah. These are
Yeah.
just the questions that I outlined. If I could just provide those, you can make photocopies.
Give them to Maria?
I have a question. Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
I have a question for you. Early in your presentation, you were reading I assume a letter from a state State Department and I couldn't quite understand all of it because I hadn't seen it, and I'm just giving you here. But it seemed that in the early part of that letter, it basically indicated that that area was not to be developed at all, other than a single-family house. But later in the same document, it appeared as though they were saying, but if there is a change, you have to do this and you have to go back to the state and so forth. Could you clarify that? Did I hear it wrong?
I don't know if I'm the one to be able to clarify that. I'm just reading the document as a layperson.
Okay, but did I hear it right? I mean.
It does sound like that. However, there are two different documents. The final environmental impact report from SciTech, which was submitted to the state, that outlines the fact that as far as the whole entire project was concerned, phase 1, phase 2, and a potential phase 3, actually, that I didn't even talk about, that environmental impact at the time may be different now, but at the time, it was as such where they were made to lessen the project scope so that it would have less environmental impact on the area. There were some other things that I admit that did play into that, like wildlife as far as endangered species, but my understanding is that's no longer. But my stance is that in the progress of the process to which he already went through to just get Westport Lakes Drive approved, as far as an environmental standpoint, my stance is that during the progress and the project changes, he gave up the right to develop that parcel in a manner such as what is being considered. And then, moreover, outlined in that document, it seems like he conceded to say, okay, I'll agree to say that this lot would be okay for a single-family, estate-family lot. And then which the reduction of construction allowed them to get a pass from the state and then just to build phase 1, which is what's currently Westport Lakes Drive. But moreover, I know in the latter part of the document, it does say that if there is a change as far as any build-out of that landmass, that they're required, according to the FEIR, the Final Environmental Impact Report, and then the certificate from the state that says, if a project change occurs, in my opinion, no matter how big or small, on that landmass, based on that document, they're required to re-engage with MIPA. If that's just a phone conversation, and then MIPA goes, yeah, you know what, it doesn't conform anymore, my argument is that it seems like something was put in as a regulation back in 2008 when he got approved for Westport Lakes Drive, at which point, in my opinion, he conceded to further develop in such a manner that lot to which he's looking to develop now in order to get Westport Lakes Drive approved. And then he got it. Built the road, put in the lots, and built one house. Now he's trying to do phase 2, which if you look through the documents, it clearly outlines that it's very similar to what it was before, back in 2008, as far as phase 2. This is nearly identical. Any project change, as far as I'm concerned, from reading the document and talking with MIPA, they should at least make a phone call to MIPA, which, to my knowledge, they have not. They have not made any contact with MIPA, even though, in my opinion, looking at these documents, they should be doing that.
My concern is a legal one, and that is, and I can't tell from the presentation, but I think it ought to at least be looked into as to whether that can legally be developed based on what that was said in that document. I don't know if there was an agreement, or is that just was it MIPA saying that, you know, you can't do this?
Didn't they just recently try to make that an affordable living?
Right. And it failed.
Well, it didn't fail, they pulled it back because
No, because
it didn't meet the requirements for assisted living.
Right.
Oh,
So
yeah,
that-
you're
so
talking-
things
But
were-
but they
things
went,
didn't go forward with the planning board enough to this point, I think, to them to even evaluate this.
Yeah, it
because was
didn't meet the
basically.
bylaw
right,
that they were trying to.
for
use.
assisted living, right.
Can I ask you one question? I think, and I think you alluded to the fact that the original Westport Lakes Drive development was also to include affordable housing?
No,
Okay, I thought I misheard then, sorry.
no. If I may, because I'm back standing here, another argument that I would have is that Gulfview Lane was never constructed during the original proposed plan as far as the subdivision. In my opinion, that was supposed to be built, and there is some documentation that talks about that roadway being built along with Westport Lakes Drive. It was never built or constructed. My argument would be, because they didn't develop that road at the time of approval back in 2008, is that or should that be an issue with the town or right-of-way access, specifically off of what currently is a private way? There was some other talk on the previous meeting where we were talking about HOA, homeowners associations, and I heard it again today, where the folks who potentially buy this property, they're gonna be required to have an HOA in order to upkeep everything here. As far as, more specifically, the septic is probably the biggest concern.
Are you talking about the proposed?
No.
That was the-
This proposal, not,
Yes.
not the original?
Yes.
For the HOA?
The planning board suggested, I believe it was the planning board's thing, that said that needs to be an HOA association to maintain the joint septic system.
Yeah, well, I think there should be
There was,
HOA with where you live.
well, okay, I can get to that. There was some talk on the last meeting about HOAs and whether they exist. Mr. Cusson made some statements that I believe he knows nothing about. I think he should have probably looked into it before proposing a project of this substance. Just like today, when we left the meeting last month, they were supposed to come back with some specific information as far as stormwater, and then now they don't have it. It just goes to show that a similar track record is already occurring with this new developer, which is not a new developer, because it's still Brad Dean. He's owned the land forever, and he's still trying to do it. That they can't be trusted to with a project of this magnitude. To get back to the HOA, I'm sorry. Currently, the homeowners on Westport Lake Drive, we do not have an HOA. We have 5 houses.
So how do you manage like snow removal?
Okay, so
So, kind of, before you get to that more complicated answer, was there supposed to be an HOA formed and it
I-
didn't get formed?
I can supply the board with the documents as far as anybody who purchased lots in Westport Lakes Drive. There's a covenants document, and there is an HOA document, okay? However, it's my understanding that we can't technically form an HOA because we only have 5 houses. How can we conceivably form an HOA with only 5 houses? This, and again, not to beat the horse, since 2008, the road has been put in, and it's now 2024. 5 houses exist there. When you look at the rest of Westport, and as far as its development, people are killing for lots to build houses. Why? Why have none of these other lots been developed?
And why is it you can't have an HOA with only 5 people?
How would you, so currently, we don't have an HOA because we never,
HOA with 5 people?
the current
No
developer,
idea.
Typically, I think when a developer does a house, they're the ones responsible for forming the HOA and initially funding it.
yes.
And
So
that never happened.
it never happened.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's going to happen with the current developer because he shows a complete lack of interest to develop the rest of the lots despite what was said today. We don't have the ability to form an HOA because it hasn't been released to us by the developer. it would be foolish to think that 5 houses could afford an HOA to maintain this roadway. As it stands right now, the developer, or developers, if you want to look at it this way, Brad Dean owned it up until 2017, to which he sold it to Coastal Harvest, which they know, they're friendly. He built his garage. They still probably associate with each other, I would assume. They're together. From those deed documents, it shows that Brad Dean still signs off.
Yes, but you were doing something else. We've already talked about.
I'm sorry.
You were talking about the.
As far as it stands now, we do not have an HOA.
Okay.
The current developer, Coastal Harvest, is responsible for the plowing and the maintenance of the road, which is almost non-existent. Trees fall on the road. We need to get to work. I'm in public safety. I need to get to work. I have to cut the tree. I have nobody to call. The road gets plowed intermittently based on how much falls. It's a disaster. Now, if I had known all of these things before I bought the house off of Brad Dean, maybe I would have reconsidered. Except not having the knowledge of that and a future project as such as this, which, in my opinion, will completely erode the how much our lots and houses are worth if you plug this place in off of a private way, which I can't conceive if we don't even have an HOA to repair the road. If 38 new houses come in, they have their own HOA. And then 38, I would assume, I don't know what the math is. If there's 38 houses, I assume each one house is going to have at least one car, probably 2. That's a lot of vehicle traffic. Knowing that the current developer, which, again, not to beat the horse, is still Brad Dean, along with Coastal Harvest, is currently not maintaining the roadway. They're not plowing properly. They're not maintaining the utilities as far as the stormwater conditions that are there now, or the catch basins. They're all covered in dirt, leaves. We, as the homeowners, have to do it ourselves. I have plowed it myself because we need to get to work. I'm not making that excuse for not doing this, but you have to assume that if it's not being done now, why would we be led to believe that it's going to be done once 38 more houses get plugged in here and the access is our private way to which doesn't get maintained? There has to be something in this project that would make that occur, or some provision that this road is going to sustain based on its current condition, and complete failure of upkeep is going to sustain this subdivision, which is, I don't think it's possible.
Okay, thank you.
I
Is there anybody
actually-
else?
I have a question, one more question about another aspect of this document that you provided us by SciTech. Just very curious about the historical resources, and it says that there was the Cornell House and barn was located on the property,
Yes.
and that the proponent has proposed to renovate the house in keeping with its historic nature. That the barn was evaluated and determined to be in poor condition, but that the proponent previously offered to relocate the barn. Whatever happened with that house and the barn? Was that ever followed through with?
So I think it's important to identify who the proponent is, right? When you read that, the proponent is Brad Dean.
Yes, right.
He's the current applicant. So those houses that stood on Lot 4, the Cornell house and that barn, which were there when we moved in, they were deconstructed, they were torn down by somebody whom I'm led to believe is the current developer. Coastal Harvest, I'm not sure. They had a company come in They did an abatement for asbestos, and all that dust blew all over my yard and my family. And then shortly thereafter, they had a excavator in there, and they tore the whole thing down. Another point to show that Brad Dean, the current applicant, doesn't conform to what he says he's going to do, and any regulations that are put upon him by either the town or state agencies, he doesn't follow through. He doesn't follow through. And the fact that he has shown that definitive track record for this whole entire time, it's inconceivable to me that he would be allowed to construct this. Even though he is the applicant, he's got some other company that's coming in again. This is literally, so they were American Lynx Course, then they're Blue Cat, and now he's changing his name to Pine Ridge LLC. Why? Why are we doing this? Why are we changing our names over history? What's the point, other than to cover up your past failures?
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Name and address.
My name is Joseph Moniz. I'm one of the abutters to said property here at 55 Westport Lakes Drive. So I don't really have much to add to what Mr. Pereira just stated. He obviously has spent a lot of time, energy, a lot of research to bring up facts that are not just hearsay, but documented from local and state documents that clearly state that there are procedures in place to have any future development be addressed through the proper authorities. That has not happened from what I can see. And if it did, we need to have proof. We need to see those documentations allowing them to go ahead and proceed with this project, considering the fact that we know they gave that up as a concession to allow Westport Lakes Drive to exist. So if that was an agreement that's in writing, you have it in your possession, then there should be another document that takes that away and allows them to go ahead and proceed with this new project. I don't see that. And then there's obviously the obvious concerns for septics and drainage and so on. I don't want to reiterate things that have already been said, but I think there's a lot of information that was brought to your attention through the due diligence of Mr. Pereira, and that it has to be addressed and answered. And it's not just, again, not hearsay, but documents that are in your possession, signed by authorities that have jurisdiction over these type of conditions that we're talking about here today. So I think they need to be addressed, and I think it falls on the board to go ahead and make sure that some of these, or if not all, be addressed to satisfy, us as residents who are pretty much victims at this point of a development that's never taken place and are now going to be subject to another development that's going to be ruining what is already in despair. So I just want to bring that to your attention, that I think we really deserve to have some representation, since it seems like we've had the ball kind of dropped on us. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roger? Excuse me. I still have concerns about some of the legalities of their ability to put this project on that particular property. I voiced one a little while ago. I hope that those just don't slide by, that we actually act on them. But the other one, and I can recall talking about it at the last hearing, is this whole idea of an HOC for this new project, and the either lack of or inactivity of an HOA on the original project. I can't see how legally you can put a new project that's going to be quite burdensome to the traffic, going over another party's private road without some kind of legal consideration. And I can recall asking at the last hearing, is there any potential of combining the two things in terms of an HOC, so that they would become one, because there's no reason that the people in a new 40B project would use the facilities of these other folks who are already there, without some kind of legal consideration or compensation or something. I mean, you know, they've got to plow the roads, otherwise these other people aren't going to get to their homes.
Right.
And I just think that, to me, that's a legal question that really ought to be addressed.
Like, what happens when you don't plow they don't plow, the Westport Lakes Road Association doesn't plow that road?
Right.
How do that development get out?
Right.
Well, we just had this happen, just on the road there.
You could put
They
a private,
added on a development on a private road.
You're talking about
you can make it private road and put gates there.
Yeah,
No, that's,
right.
no, right down the road here, there was it wasn't a 40B, but there was an extension onto a private road for another development.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the legality is.
Yeah, and last meeting, the representative said that Mr. Dean, or Blue Cat, owned the rights to that Westport Lakes Road, and therefore that's why they were allowed passage. But if he owns that road, then he's also responsible for maintaining that road.
Right. Or should be.
Yeah,
Well, there's all things that we have to that we're gonna have to thrash out in the next several meetings.
yes.
The legality really isn't in your jurisdiction. If, you know, if they don't have the right to pass over the private way, it's gonna be an issue between property owners. It's gonna be their dispute. You have an eligible applicant before you with the project eligibility letter
Right, right.
from Mass Housing. So you don't have the ability to deny it because of potential issues, you know, about the rights to use that private way.
Okay.
You certainly have within your jurisdiction standards for the roadway, you know, recommendations for safety, safe passage, the construction plan and all of that. But, you know, the way this works is you do have an eligible applicant with the project eligibility letter. So if there, and, you know, that project eligibility letter is based on information that the applicant submits to Mass Housing. I've seen people go to Mass Housing and challenge certain submissions that were made to them and try to get them to reconsider that. But that isn't really.
That's not our
within your-
purview.
Yeah, your purview is overall, you know, looking at this project, looking at conditions, you know, in terms of health, safety, local rules and regulations, not to try to resolve potential private property disputes between those owners.
Okay.
You know, that issue about MIPA, these are very, you know, reasonable questions and issues to raise. I'm not saying that. And certainly it would benefit the process for the applicant to be responding to this and bringing it out on the public record, you know, and addressing concerns. But you don't have the ability also to stop your proceedings because of MIPA. So if there's separate jurisdiction involved, if there's a new environmental impact report or an amendment, that's a separate jurisdictional issue that gets resolved by those state agencies. And again, they're issues that are legitimate, they're definitely within your purview in terms of your discussion items, and it would behoove the applicant to try to respond to those on the record. But, you know, there's only so far you can go. In other words, if you determine that they did require, you know, a notice of project change, you don't have the ability to deny the project on issues within your jurisdiction for MIPA. Even at the stage where a developer appeals a comprehensive permit decision of the Housing Appeals Committee, there are requirements in the regulations that they make a MIPA filing within 7 days of filing the appeal or to update HAC. So there are different jurisdictional issues involved in all properties. You know, there's state issues, federal, all of that. But the issues that are in your jurisdiction are local rules and regulations of other town boards and committees. And that's
What
how you're
about-
gonna do the.
But how does that get resolved?
Wait,
I mean,
excuse me. What about the fundamental question of, are we dealing with a trustworthy developer? I mean, are we, the fundamental, are we hearing from someone that follows through on
Yeah.
what they are asked to do? Does that, I mean,
Is that a consideration?
yeah,
To a, you know, up to a certain point, what's more within your purview is making sure that you have a cogent, properly conditioned permit that's enforceable. And if the permit holder doesn't comply with it, it's an enforcement situation. So
We-
that's really all you can do. I mean, yeah, it's interesting if, there's reason to believe that representations are false, you can look into that. But you're not, it's not really something that, you wouldn't deny a permit because you think that the applicant, is not trustworthy. It depends on what the issue
well,
is.
whose job was it to follow up on what happened with Westport Lakes? I mean, if he didn't do, I don't know, if the developer didn't do what had been required of him to do, then who follows up on that? I mean, we don't do that.
No, you don't. It's a
But who-
separate issue.
But who does? I'm just curious.
I don't know, I'd have to look at it, I haven't reviewed, what was permitted here, I haven't done a title search, or, I don't know anything about the bonding or what's required. All I do know is that you have the ability to condition the permit, and you have the ability to make sure that it meets standards, the roadway, and then they have to comply with that. And again, your permit will also be a checklist. That, before they apply for a building permit, they have to prove X, Y, Z. So all of that's gonna be set out in your permit, but those are really the issues that are within your purview. And again, I'm not saying that anything that was addressed tonight is irrelevant. It's certainly something, for the applicant to respond to, and you can look into it. I'm just saying, your overall focus is on local rules and regulations, health and safety issues within your jurisdiction, and sitting in the place of other town boards and committees. It's not to try to resolve private property disputes.
So if we condition the permit on a joint HOA for the road.
You wouldn't be able to, you would be able to condition it in terms of the homeowner, what should be required in the homeowners association agreement to a certain point. Because certain issues that are within the purview of the subsidizing agency, you don't have jurisdiction over. But, there is some leeway on that area, so you can have conditions related to that, but you don't have the, I can look at documentation related to it, but my sense of this right now, like, you don't have the ability to require them to join in with another ownership parcel for a homeowners association. You're just dealing with the parcel that's the subject of this application. And again, they're eligible to come before you because they've been issued the project eligibility letter. And that is not necessarily sacrosanct forever. If it appears that that might have been based on a misrepresentation or some type of incomplete fact, somebody can certainly go back to Mass Housing and say, you should look at this project eligibility letter because they don't have access, or, they don't have site control, they're not acknowledging all the pieces that are involved in this. But that's really in the province of Mass Housing.
Okay.
But we don't have the, well, I'll
The
say it
application.
the other way around. It would be our responsibility to approve a project if they didn't have any legal access to get to it.
Somebody would have to prove that.
Right.
But
Right.
who proves
And
it?
then you would have it, at most, really, you'd have it in a condition in your permit that this is based on access that's documented through the Mass Housing.
I mean, they
project
should,
eligibility.
I agree that it's a private
Road.
aspect, but it seems to me that should be addressed and resolved before we can approve a project. In other words, how are they getting legal access to go over somebody else's property to get to theirs.
Well, he owned,
Yeah.
Brad Dean and Blue Cat owned that road.
Yeah, and again, that's what the project eligibility they have site access proven through the project eligibility letter, and again, it makes them eligible to apply to you. And you're not, I'd recommend against it getting too far into a potential private property dispute, because then you're left without a substantive hearing on the issues within your jurisdiction. And so that's where you're at this point. Unless there's some misrepresentation on which the project eligibility letter was based, you have an eligible applicant before you. So your purview is to look at that roadway, get departmental comments on the roadway, get peer review of the adequacy of the roadway, traffic issues and that type of thing, and you try to condition it accordingly. And again, your conditions will be a checklist for when they have to go through each stage of the development.
So it would have to be the abutters, perhaps, that would have to go to the funding agency and.
Yeah, if there, or anybody could, but if there's an issue about it.
So is it,
I mean, I'm not hearing that there's necessarily a dispute that they have that this proposed development has access through that private way. I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing more that it hasn't been completed, it's not adequate, nobody maintains it, it's a free-for-all for how we figure out how to get out if there's a storm or whatever. Those are different issues. But that can be within your, that would be within your jurisdiction, to make sure that the project is conditioned so that you have an adequate roadway.
Yeah,
That's,
what I'm
is
talking about.
maintained.
Correct.
So
And
we
that
could-
meets standards.
Right, so we can't force Westport Lakes and the new development to form a joint HOA to maintain Westport Lakes, but we can condition Pine Ridge Estates to maintain Westport Lakes
Right.
Road. And when they don't, who has to enforce that?
It would be enforceable through, your permit conditions are enforceable as a matter of zoning, so you'd have basically your zoning enforcement officer enforcing it.
Yeah, so that puts a
And
that's
that's also why.
that puts a big burden on the state, on the town.
No, it does, and that's why I'm saying,
Right.
don't take my comments as discounting what's been presented. These are important issues, it's important to look into. It would also behoove the applicant to give you some type of assurance to answer these questions. Okay, here's the story, here's the
So-
plan for the future, and as, the more forthcoming they can be with you, the better off they are.
so if there are questions about misrepresentation, that's something that town would bring forward to the permitting, to the state, or private citizen, whose job is that to?
Whoever is aggrieved. Yeah.
Whoever thinks there's a misstatement.
Yeah. And
So-
again, I'm not hearing that. I'm not hearing that right now.
Okay.
Despite the concerns that have been raised, I'm not hearing that type of issue, like a misrepresentation was made to Mass Housing on which the project eligibility letter was based.
I don't know what they did represent to Mass Housing as far as accessing over somebody else's private road or whatever.
Well, it sounds, from the
Well,
presentation, it sounds like it's his road,
Then
right?
unmaintained road.
He's saying he's the same owner,
Okay,
and,
well, I'll say an unmaintained road.
yeah, yeah.
They have said that.
It's not
that
a
they
matter
have
of
to do the plowing.
unmaintained. Yeah, it's not a matter of unmaintained, it's a matter that they found site control. So that's why they're eligible to apply to you.
They have control of it.
Yeah,
They never completed it.
Well, they have control of it.
But they don't
Right.
have to maintain it, nobody's gonna.
but again, you have the ability to condition it, make sure it's an adequate roadway. If DPW is saying to you, this roadway cannot service these houses for X, Y, Z reasons. If your peer reviewer says, this roadway is going to be underwater for 8 months of the year, issues like that, that's within your province. You could potentially deny a project based on an issue like that. You could say the roadway is inadequate to service this.
Well, I
We
can
can't
understand
condition
that,
it.
But that's not saying that the That has nothing to do with whether they plow the road in the wintertime.
Nope,
No.
no. Nope.
And they have access to this development through this road that he has no interest in on the development part itself? I mean,
I have no idea. That's what I'm saying, it would behoove the applicant to try to respond to it.
So how would we find the application to Mass Housing? Because it just says in response to your application, we don't have the application.
It's in the
Yeah.
packet.
Is it in here
Typically,
somewhere?
yeah, typically that
Okay.
would be public, right?
And with respect to Westport Lakes, did they not, Westport, the original development,
Right.
where this gentleman and that gentleman live, there is, it sounds like a lot of steps weren't completed based upon what they were required to do.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but let's say that if there was, then whose jurisdiction is that?
And how does it, so how does that affect the new development?
It,
He didn't finish
it-
the old one, so we can't do a new one? Is that the?
Well,
it depends.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Was it an A&R plan? Was it a subdivision? I don't know. I don't know anything about the history of the site. All I know is you've got an eligible applicant.
Right.
Mass Housing found site control and the ability to pass through that roadway. And I know that you certainly have within your jurisdiction making sure that this is a safe and adequate roadway, not just for the project, but forever else it serves.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So if it's serving an area that is then subject to flooding issues or whatever it may be,
Yeah,
you know, those are issues within your
yeah,
jurisdiction.
access for public safety.
Yeah, and that's why the fire department weighed in, they made recommendations, they made a.
Didn't that happen when Westport Lakes Drive was put in, that they all weighed in and there was some conditions?
I don't know what happened.
Right, but I'm assuming that they did weigh in and they did put certain conditions on it, and now somebody, and I don't know who, has failed to ensure that is because in my mind, if there's nobody, if that's a private road and that individual owns that private road, that individual is responsible for plowing, and if he doesn't, then he's responsible for any damages that may occur for a lack of emergency vehicles able to get into the houses that are there.
Yeah, but I just don't know. I don't know the
Yeah.
history of it, and I don't know what the obligations are. Certainly, somebody is acting at their peril
Yeah.
if they're responsible for maintaining public safety access to a residence that, you know, so I don't know, but it doesn't sound like a great situation, that's for sure. And again, it would be helpful for the applicant to try to enlighten the board a little bit about the history of the roadway, what's planned for the future, what the story is. You know, as the gentleman pointed out, you know, the last time the applicant had represented, he knows nothing about it, he has, you know, no control over it or whatever. It sounds like that maybe isn't the case. And I definitely think, you know, it would be helpful for him to enlighten the board.
Okay. You got something else you want to add?
May I just ask a question to the town council?
Good.
I'm sorry, through the chair. Regarding the mass housing application, if there was items left off, potentially, I guess my question is, how significant of an item that would be left off that document that the applicant didn't provide potentially would be significant enough to cause a problem with the application itself? Having known that on the application, the final sheet is an affidavit that I swear under pains of perjury that all of the application is correct and all of the information that I have is actually put out to Mass Housing. My question is, if anything was left off, no matter how small, would that negate the application, or could there be any potential issue with the actual application?
But that's kind of an open,
Well, I mean, I can answer within reason is,
Okay.
Mass Housing would have to act on it. So if someone were to raise an
somebody
issue
came
with
up and
them,
said-
they would look into it, they may or may not make a decision on it. They could always revoke the project eligibility letter.
Do they hold?
I've seen applicants, I've seen applicants who will remain nameless and do not involve this project in any way, shape, or form, or this applicant, have been, have received like temporary stop orders from the state that, okay, these existing projects you can go forward on, you will not file new projects between now and another date. I've seen that. I've seen Mass Housing, revisit an issue. I can't answer for them about what they would find significant or what not.
Right.
Does
But
Mass
you-
Housing hold public hearings? Are they required like we are to?
Well, they did.
Public hearing?
Mass Housing, I'm sure, there was a site visit before, when they got their, prior to their project eligibility letter, I wasn't involved, but the town would have gotten notice. The town would have been able to
They did a
comment
site
on it. There would have been a site visit.
Yes.
I don't know what happened with that. So there was a whole process with Mass Housing before the application was filed with you.
For butters?
There was no opportunity for butters to make comment as far as the 40B application.
Not to
Yeah, but the town, absolutely, and it's by regulation. So the town received notice, the town had the ability to comment. They might have, I don't know.
Yeah,
There was a site visit that
It comes
they,
before a selectmen's meeting,
yeah,
and I've personally seen this,
All right.
and the selectmen don't care. Okay, yeah, we've been informed that we have a 40B application,
The
and
planning board.
no,
did
it's not an
They did
application.
a site
It's,
visit.
no, there's a I'm talking about a totally separate thing.
For the
Before
eligibility
we
letter.
filed, yes, there was an application to Mass Housing, the town would have received notice.
Right.
Town has the ability to weigh in. I don't know what happened here, if the town did weigh in. A lot of towns, absolutely, they participate in the process. They'll gather departmental comments, they'll put a letter together, select board, they'll vote it, they'll submit it to Mass Housing. Often you'll see it quoted in the project eligibility letter. We direct the applicant to address the following concerns during the process. That goes on. Again, they have a site visit that the town, has notice of.
yeah,
So-
I don't know of any site.
So-
visit.
They did. They
Yeah.
did.
Can I
know
ask
because I got
a
note from the
question
planning board that-
with respect to the materials that have been given to us? There's two things here. There's one development team. Would that be something they submitted to Mass Housing or something they submitted just to us?
Yes. they-
Well, they listed their attorney as Brian Corey, who's been disbarred prior to the application. There's another spot here that says Brad Dean is a seasoned entrepreneur, blah, 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 right? From 2010 to 2016, Brad spearheaded the development, construction, and successful sale of Westport Works Drive, a premier subdivision boasting 30 meticulously crafted single-family lots. There might be meticulously crafted family lots, there are no houses on that lot, so I would say that that's a misrepresentation, other than also putting a disbarred attorney as their attorney.
It's a concern. Can you, are you asking me if you should deny the project tonight?
We can't.
That-
We can't.
I would say no.
No,
Don't
I'm
do that.
I'm just bringing out some things for, because we can't talk.
And,
among-
the
because
other
we
issue-
can't talk amongst ourselves outside of this public
This is
hearing.
where you want to be having this dialogue, and we'll see how it shakes out. Again, it would behoove the applicant to respond. Your final decision will end up having, you'll have the background, the procedural history, you'll have findings in your decision. If you find some of these issues are relevant, that you want to raise it in your decision, you can certainly put it in there. We'll just have to see how it all shakes out during the
Yeah.
process.
I guess.
But
so
my comprehensive permit decisions typically are multiple pages of documents and history and findings before you get to the conditions. So we'll just see how it all shakes out.
I guess I request the applicant to address the fact that they don't have an attorney and to address that statement regarding the 30 meticulously crafted single-family lots.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Am I able to just provide these There was a question about phase one and phase two, and then some potential deed restrictions that were placed on the proposed lot. I don't know if I could just submit these as well.
You can submit it then.
You can submit it. He can submit anything. It all becomes a public record once it's submitted, so.
Do you need these back? I'll make a copy.
Can we all have copies, please?
Yes.
Okay, you want to come back up? We'll talk about when we'll have, it. Oh, now you want to, okay. Name and address?
My name's Stacy Pereira. I'm also at 26 Westport Lakes Drive. Earlier there was a comment about further development. I might have some confusion on that. Where did that comment come from, where there's going to be future development? I don't know if it was the planning board or...
It was the future development of Westport Lakes.
Right,
Drive.
who was the one that stated that? Where did that come from?
Who comes from the planning board?
Okay. I just had that question. My other, I didn't realize that Amaral's was notified. I actually reached out to Westport Community Schools. Not that I know that this won't be a great impact on the decision, but I did email the school business administrator for Westport Community Schools, and in 2009, district made decision not to go down every street unless there were 10 or more students in one area. And buses cannot back up and turn around with students on the bus. They also take consideration during snowstorms. And as far as private roads, they do not.
You don't go down private.
No, they do not go down private roads.
Okay.
As far as the traffic study, which I thought we would have results, because that is definitely a major concern with myself. Just with 3 houses on Westport Lakes Drive, there has been 3 accidents. So my major concern is safety. So I guess we could get those police reports if we needed them. And the other thing I had, because Brent did mention a lot of my concerns, was the Westport Fire Department, what the representative represented today. I just want to actually see the adjustments that were made. I don't know if anybody else is interested in what they suggested and the changes that they actually made on the map. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to have to discuss when to have the next hearing. So once you come back up then.
If you want, Mr. Chairman, I could show the revisions on the plan for the fire chief if you want,
Yeah.
or we can just wait till next meeting. I'll leave it with you.
That should be fairly quick.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the revisions, the storage, underground storage things for, in case they have a fire. There's one here, and there's one here. The fire chief wanted to make sure that the distance between the furthest house to the tank was no more than 750 feet. So in this revised letter, we had those 2 dimensions on there. For this dimension and then the dimension from this one to the furthest house
Okay.
there. Also, he wanted to make sure that the radius was 60. It actually was, so there was no changes that were needed for that. So, those were the only 2 changes that we made in regards to the, oh no, sorry, the turnaround T in the back
Oh,
here
in the back.
to get to these houses, so we wanted to make sure you can turn around. And that was in compliance with their requirements. It's actually 120 feet, 60 feet on each side. They provided a detail for that.
And then there were some future things, things like putting numbers on the houses and things
Yeah,
like
that's-
that.
That's, yeah.
Can't do that until you get a house put it up.
Okay,
So, again, I guess the project goes in phases, so this infrastructure would have to be in place prior to them building? Like, the septic system would have to be in place for X amount of houses when they build the
Yeah.
first one?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna wanna have conditions in the permit. At some point, the applicant really should suggest conditions to you on, with regard to phasing. And then just, you're not bound by those, but they should sort of present to you what their plan is. And again, your permit will act as sort of a checklist, like before they can apply for the building permit, what infrastructure has to be in place. And then, you know, and what those building permits can include and how much clearing they can do and phase by phase and all of that has to be in there.
So, can I just understand, you don't have a financial interest in this development other than being the engineer? Or do you own part of this development?
I do not own part of the development. I'm not saying that I may or may not in the future. We are also a developer too.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
my,
might be something that I make an offer to Mr. Dean on.
okay,
There hasn't been no offers yet, but I'm definitely interested in it. So
Okay.
that's a possibility.
Okay, so.
And Mr. Dean could sell the parcel to anybody at the end.
right,
of the
at
project.
the end of the day. So
Yeah.
he might just be going for the permitting, doesn't mean that he would actually be the one who's actually doing the development.
But right now, he has a development for like a small subset of the houses.
What houses?
I mean, there are so many lots, but it's gonna be done in phases. You're not gonna build 30 houses. You're gonna build
The
half a
development,
dozen, I think, in the beginning.
again, I mean, I can't speak of the developer, but I mean, as council said, it's something that we would present
Right.
as part of the conditions, a phasing plan. Certainly, the infrastructure would all be done, whether you gotta put in the drainage, you gotta put in the septic.
But it sounds like, just to clarify, that once we get if we go through the permitting process, we issue the permit, Mr. Dean can sell the whole project with the permit to somebody else.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty common with 40Bs.
Okay, when do you propose for the next meeting?
The second Wednesday of December 11th.
11?
Okay by me.
Okay, by me.
You can do it.
Marty Pucci?
Yes, I can make it.
We
Yeah,
need
we
you.
need you.
It's kind of you to check. Not all boards bother, but
No, we would.
thank you.
Yeah, just prior to that next meeting, if we can get just a copy of everything that was submitted, especially your butters. We'd like to prepare a response with everything that we feel is applicable and certainly will help the, you know, stuff like legal access. I think that's important.
Yep.
For the board to know. Any other, you know, issues that we feel that we should be addressed, they'll be addressed.
You
And this
said
gives us
the
enough time.
traffic report
Traffic
will
report
be done by
should
then?
absolutely be done by then.
Okay,
Knock on wood.
yeah. I mean, I think the traffic report actually, in some respects, is more important. Like the stormwater report, like that's just engineering, you can get it done,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But traffic study it is what it is.
Yep.
When you use the term legal access a moment ago, would you include in that a plan for the maintenance of the road? I'm particularly concerned about snow in the wintertime.
For our project,
Yeah.
I think it's a little early for us to prepare the HOA for our development, but that's something that certainly would be part of the final. Yeah.
We'd like to.
We won't have that in the next meeting.
I think what Jerry is
But
saying,
certainly, I mean, I can speak on an HOA, the development I had in Mattapoisett, I bought that, I had 26 lots, and how it worked was I was responsible for 26 payments. So if it was let's just say it was 100,000, you know, I had to divide that by 26. When one person came in, that person now was responsible, I was responsible for 25.
Yeah,
So
you're talking about a HOA.
That's how it works, that's how it should work.
Yeah.
and that's how it
And then.
should have worked for
should've
Westport
worked for
Lakes.
that.
Yes.
The development I bought, as well as the HOA, you know, and we had to get it set up.
My concern is to see a plan that would accommodate if the people that are already there chose not to plow the
The other
road at
development.
all, and you.
Yeah, that's more of a legal issue. That's,
Well, no,
Let's
no,
not
I
go
want
around.
your plan, you know.
that's not gonna be part of our.
How are you gonna get your people to get to?
That will become a legal battle between the two,
Is there anyone
38.
responsible for,
I'm trying to avoid a legal battle.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's,
you can't.
we can't, we can't, that's something that we don't have. That development should be, however, any owners there, they should already have an HOA.
No, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about if they suddenly
They don't
refuse
plow.
to do that plowing, how are your people gonna get it? I mean,
Well, it's an enforcement order that they would make a complaint and take the legal action at that point. But we certainly will have one set up.
Yes, so what's, everybody agree that December 11th is okay?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Same time, I'm
George?
assuming 6:30.
6:30, yeah. So I'll make a motion then that we continue this hearing on December 11th at 6:30 PM.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no.
Thank you.
So we will do that, and hopefully we can start making some progress.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you all, neighbors, for coming. You know, we certainly did want to hear your, any issues you have. Okay, couple of other orders of business. We have a couple of meeting minutes that have to be approved.
I'll take up, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
See you in a month.
Thank you.
Don't go back the way you came.
Did he, did you
For
give
some
me the
reason
copy
we-
of the second
I
thing?
have copies.
Okay,
That's right.
Okay,
I've lost
start off
my-
with October 2nd. I have meeting minutes for October 2nd that Maria's produced and incorporated comments. So this was the one that was the preliminary stuff for Pine Ridge Estates. I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as provided for October 2nd, 2024.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. That's approved. Likewise for November 9th, which was the 96 Massasquatch Road, the demolishing of the premises and making a new,
Yeah,
it was a finding.
for Dyson.
So, again, I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for October 9th, 2024, as provided by Maria. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, no. That's approved. Just other business. Cynthia and I both attended another short-term rental meeting that, and we're making progress. What we've, we've also discussed this with Attorney Blake. Our plan is that in accordance with the Massachusetts Supreme Court that has identified short-term rentals as a business, we're gonna treat it as such, which means that the zoning part of it is gonna be very straightforward. There's not gonna be a lot of conditions to it. Very, very top level. And it is gonna then, but then we have to also change the general bylaw, because that's where businesses are managed. So the general bylaw will have a section for short-term rental businesses. And it will mimic a lot of the other businesses, you know, that are in that bylaw. But again, it will be relatively straightforward. What it will do, though, is that short-term rentals will have to fill out a permit application, but it will be, what do we call it,
Self-certifying.
self-certified. They won't have to actually get approval from fire department approval. They will certify that they have met the requirements of fire detectors
Yeah.
and whatever, and they will certify that they will meet the requirements for health department, septic systems and whatever. And then that will then go to the select board, who will then, in a meeting, will come up with a list of all the short-term rental properties for permit approval. And that then allows the public to say, I got a problem with this one. It's kind of like, you've been to a town meeting, we say we have a budget, and there's 100 line items. And they just say, here's all the line items. If you have a problem with anyone, say hold, and we'll talk about that one.
So
So,
this is on an annual basis
and this will be done on an annual basis
with the selectmen?
with the selectmen, yes. So it will be a relatively straightforward, there won't be a lot of nuts and bolts on either of the general, because it will essentially be on the application form. The application form will have, not a sign off, but, do you have adequate parking? Does your septic meet the requirements? Do you have fire? So, and Cynthia's actually you're gonna go to, no, Steve was.
Steve's going to all the.
Steve is gonna go to all the departments and say, with the application, what aspects of each of your responsibilities need to go in this application? So that, but again, the applicant isn't gonna have to actually call the fire department and say, you gotta come, because otherwise you're gonna have the firemen, everybody's gonna be running around we don't have resources for that.
But they need
They
to
could,
certify
though,
that.
on a per case basis, say, I'm not really sure, so I better go call them and have them come check. So, that is the plan at the moment, and then we're gonna present that to the select board, because now that's more work for them. I've talked to Paula Brown about this, and she has, and I've seen several different of these application forms, and they're relatively straightforward.
And they
And
do
and all we're
follow-
gonna do is we're gonna sort of take one and cut and paste it to whatever we need for short-term rentals.
So it's like, I think, junkyards and.
Right, I mean, yes, we have,
Automobile
yeah.
places all have to come up in front of the select board every year to get their permit to operate their business, and that's what we're doing. And
Right.
This way, we thought the enforcement would fall similarly how the selectmen enforce all the other businesses in town, and.
right, yeah, since it's a business and since electmen's enforce the businesses, then.
Yeah.
And what this allows, though, is it's a trade-off between, it's not putting an excessive burden on the short-term renters, that we don't really want to do that. We don't want to make it so that you can't rent. But on the other hand, we need some assurances that, that they're doing it properly.
Well, it's safe. I mean, the
Right.
last thing I want to do is say, yes, you can do short-term rentals, and
Yeah.
then, a deck falls down or a fire happens
Right.
and somebody gets hurt, right? And this way, by having them self-certify,
And under penalty of death, then,
and then they
I
become
certify
liable,
this.
right? I mean,
Right.
you
So
know,
anyway,
how enforceable that will be in the end game, but at least it makes people, thoughtful of those things, that maybe, like, I think,
Mm-hmm.
some people just don't, if they've been a long time from being a renter themselves, like, when you're in college and
Mm-hmm.
you don't have a house yet, you kind of think about those sort of things, but I think as time goes by, you sort of forget
right, yeah.
what it is.
So
like
anyway,
to
that's
be
the,
a renter, and.
that right now is the
landlord.
process of that, and at the same time, though, we are gonna actually have to make a change to the other one, which is the accessory apartment.
Yeah.
And that one is also, we're gonna have to work on, but that's mostly gonna be cutting. There are paragraphs in there that are no longer allowed
That's due to the state.
because of the state law.
But getting back to short-term rentals
Yep.
for a second, I'm just curious, based on my experience being on that committee, have you had much public input?
No, and we've been doing it at night so they could come.
Yeah, on a Monday night when you have the selectmen, because I
Well,
can't.
we have,
I tried to change it, but no one would listen to me, sorry.
Yeah.
I listen.
I don't-
somebody
personally, I
was
don't
the only day that could come was Monday, but anyway,
I don't
we have
think
had,
any
we've
other
had one or
town-
two people at each one.
Yeah, I don't think that any other town meeting ought to be held when a selectmen meeting,
Yeah.
because that's the top dog.
So, anyway, that's the that's the status of that. We're having another hearing in a couple of weeks with a unupdated draft, and still, like I said, Steve is gonna go and check with all the departments. What we wanna do is we wanna come up with a straw man of this application form so that the select board knows what they're getting into when they do this.
I have just a question of how that plays out. So right now, we have the same amount of both businesses and private residents pay the same tax base.
Yeah, we don't have enough
Right.
businesses, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm just curious.
They pay taxes, though. They pay rental, they do pay, so when you get, they pay taxes on the rental, so when they rent it out for $200 a night,
Yep.
they're paying the state
Massachusetts.
tax as well as the town tax.
Yes.
So we are getting taxes.
And they're paying real estate
Right,
tax as
well, that's
well.
not my question. My
Yeah.
question is, I mean, I was talking to people from Dartmouth and they're on select boards. They were, that used to be on the select board and on the finance committee, and they were surprised that we didn't have a different tax.
Oh, 2 levels for
Two
commercial
levels
and
for
residential?
commercial
Well, yeah,
versus,
yes.
and so in now making all of, how many short-term rentals we have, a couple hundred, right? So now they're
Couple
all,
hundred, yeah.
so now they're all small businesses, right?
Technically, yes. According to the
So-
Supreme Court, they're all businesses.
Okay, so what happens, I mean, I'm just like thinking down the line, I mean, it's like, so if it ever comes before the town to change that rate,
It
then.
wouldn't affect them.
No, it's because
It
the
wouldn't
rates,
affect
because the
You're
rates
probably
are
gonna have
based,
to apply for a business permit.
and that's what started what we're doing.
Well, there's a fee for applying, for an application, but yeah, that's,
Because it wouldn't change, we're not changing the zoning. So let's say if we decided to do the commercial, which I think we should, but let's just, the commercial districts would pay a higher tax than the residential districts. We're allowing a business in a residential district, so it's always gonna be residential,
yeah.
where it, versus a commercial district.
And you've seen the pie chart.
Yeah,
The business is this much, and
yeah.
Yeah,
98% is residential.
right,
So
right.
all the-
I was just
if we had a bigger business base, then we
Dartmouth
could.
has a big business.
big
base.
Yeah,
business. Then you would
That was what I said.
have a
to
different
them.
rate for business versus, but
Right, I understand
but it's
that.
such a small pie, it doesn't.
I just was wondering how that would affect.
Yeah, that wouldn't affect that,
Okay.
yeah. So anyway, that's,
Well, what's-
that's,
Isn't isn't there going to be a sewer and water going down?
not at the moment. Probably not in our lifetime.
Short term, they
Yeah.
they did get a grant to do the first phase.
They only got a grant to,
But is
they took property for what could be where the
Yeah,
pump station will be.
no, they got a $3 million grant. Look on the website.
Yes, right, but there's not gonna,
I thought that
they're
was
not putting
That
any
was a-
sewers in anywhere.
They're already digging in Macomber, the
Yeah,
school.
Oh, for that, yes, but that's.
First loop.
that's-
They're doing the first loop
Yes.
of the sewer.
Right.
Only the sewer, not the water.
Yes.
No,
wasn't that
the other
voted
way
down
around.
by the town?
They're doing the first,
The
oh, the
water.
water, they're doing the
No,
first,
the
yeah.
funding.
They're doing the first
Oh,
loop of the
oh,
water,
okay.
yeah.
Oh,
That's-
was voted
Okay,
down.
I just was,
Yeah.
catching up.
You're right. They did the first phase of they got money to do the first phase of the water so they can get water to this Macomber school.
Right,
They didn't get it for the sewer, and they had money like from previous grant to do the takings,
Yeah.
which really wasn't much money because Meatworks got $10,000.
Right.
Whoop-de-doo.
Is it now, is that a private business?
Legal fees.
No, it's a
Zoning.
okay,
nonprofit.
okay. all right.
Has
So-
has there been any discussion at all?
That's only gonna take a couple,
Candidates,
Yeah,
right?
that stuff came
Oh,
up,
wait.
yeah.
Has there been any discussion at all?
I wanna hear just, what
Well, it's funny
what-
because this,
went around the voters because
well, because Soares actually said we should do the taking. It was only Shayna who was against the takings.
and
So it's,
they said, people said no, and then they said, well, it was, what you said no to was the funding, we got funding from another source.
mhm,
I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Well, that's a true statement.
yeah,
Yeah, I understand, but I didn't know that prior to going to that.
yeah.
You were there, I saw you.
They were trying to get well, that was the whole point. They knew they could get funding for the first phase because of the PFAS in the water down there and for the school in particular. So, but then they decided to say, well, if we're gonna do part of it, we might as well just do all of it. And that's when it got a little bit out of control.
Okay.
And the reason they did that was because
There was-
we had an auditorium full of people who wanted that. And instead of doing it in the phases.
Yeah.
And so we went along with that.
Well,
My question, back to the short-term rentals, has there been any discussion at all about actually enforcing that? Has there been much enforcement this year at all?
I know there's at least one.
Yeah.
I know there's at least one.
And is it actively been stopped?
I don't know.
For them?
I know they've been
Enforcement
issued,
of-
they've been issued cease and desist.
Yeah.
What happens after that?
No, we're talking short-term.
Short-term.
rental.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
there was one cease and desist order.
There was
Yeah,
one
once
cease
it-
and desist.
once it
order.
That
was
wasn't-
determined- Once it was determined that they were all illegal,
Mm-hmm.
we were all made to think that, oh boy, well, now we've
Yeah.
gotta stop doing these things,
Yeah.
or we gotta
Yes.
approve
Yeah.
them. Now, we've sort of had a moratorium on the thing, and
Well, but I mean, the way it works is
But
that
it's
the
not
only,
official.
the only way we would issue a cease and desist is if somebody complained.
Complained.
If somebody complained, then he issues a cease and desist.
So then what happened with that one? Because they didn't come before
I don't know,
us.
I don't know whatever happened to it. I don't know if
Because-
they ceased it or if they, I don't know what they
They
did.
ceased or desisted, but they never came to appeal it. in
Never
front
came
of
to
us.
appeal it, no.
I know, if I might, I know that one that Ralph sent out a cease and desist a few months ago.
Yeah.
We were at the end of the season, and she had contacted me and said she wasn't gonna be renting out anyway
Oh,
until next year, so.
it's, and next year will be a whole different thing, okay.
Yeah, because somebody asked me, it's always, is it, are you sending them out everywhere? And
Will
I
the town be
said,
able to make money?
I'm looking for this.
no,
That, I mean,
And what's the,
you could, but they don't do it. It's
oh, I'm just
that
saying,
okay?
if you're gonna have
I
short-term
gave the
rentals,
check
it's a
back to her
business, I
because-
mean.
Well, they do make money.
Okay.
They got like
Nothing was decided.
Nothing was
I didn't
decided.
So that
want to the check.
I think it's time for a glass of wine.
I think so
Short-term
too.
rentals pay a tax.
We really-
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, I see, it's like.
I have an update on the zoning board's legal fees
Okay, how much have we paid? Charge?
for fiscal '24 and the first quarter of '25, which we're in now.
Hey,
For
but
'24,
20 years behind.
435 Old Harbor Road was $6,345. 581A Drift Road was $112.50. And we had a general invoice for $112.50. And we had short-term rentals for $1,327.50. And then Spinnaker Way was $4,050.
Yes.
Wasn't so bad.
And so far this year, in fiscal year '25, we had Pine Ridge Estates for $470 and 40B for $681.50. There were two more line items on fiscal '25 and fiscal '24 charged, when I looked at them, because Paula sent me the email, and I said, Paula, we didn't have anything for Briggs Landing for $1,269. And she goes, oh, no, that's billed to the zoning office, you've got to take that off. So we took that off. And then I looked down to the '24 one, hey, we didn't have Wildberry Lane for $2,182.50. Oh, yeah, that's the zoning officer too. One of them was the final review for Briggs Landing by the zoning, the building department. And the other one was a review for Wildberry Lane.
And it goes under
building
zoning
department.
because it's the zoning enforcement officer.
Correct.
Yes,
yeah,
okay.
But no, they're separate. The building
Yes, I know,
department
so-
and us are separate when
Yes.
he reviews things.
Okay.
But the thing to remember is,
So we did well there.
we're only a short period into '25, and we already have 1,000, and it's all 40B.
Well,
Ju-
yes,
just-
and it's, yes, yep.
And it's gonna be,
Oh,
it's gonna be.
you're right.
Now you're
Oh.
wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, Val.